agenda today.
We do.
We'll start out with privilege of the floor. Is there someone who would like? Whatever? No.
I think they're all on the agenda.
They're all on the agenda. Okay.
That's good.
So in which case, we'll just hang with us. We'll be with you in a few minutes. So the approval of the minutes of the meeting of September 10th. You had a chance to take a look at the minutes.
I didn't have anything really.
Do you have any changes to
No,
those?
I didn't.
I had a was to a were, but that was.
Do I hear a motion then to approve the minutes of the meeting of September 10th?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Financial update. Mark?
Yep, I provided you with the recent revenues and expenditures. No real changes or concern areas that I have unless you have a question. We are slightly overspent on the legal budget. We're at 108% so far through the year. I don't see any other issues coming up. A lot of that has related back to closings on bond issues and things like that, other financial stuff. The only other thing is general assistance is slightly over, but we have taken care of those issues.
Okay, you mentioned you changed the formula for
Yeah, the formula, it's just on the balances, Mike. If you look at the revenues, anything that is negative is under collected. If it's positive, then we are collected over.
I see what you did.
Yeah. So I just wanted to point that out in case you.
So you reversed it.
I just
Collected
reversed
over
it.
year
It
to
was-
date?
Yes, collected over year to date to the budget.
Right.
To the budget.
I just like to, on the recreation, on the revenue side,
Yeah.
and because when I read it before, I read it slightly differently, or maybe these numbers are corrected. Well, right now, we to meet the budget, we have to collect another 46,000 between now and year end.
For recreation, another 10,335.
We're at 114 and we
What
collected
am I looking
104.
at here? I've got
You got 114
is the budget.
and collected is
104.
104.6. So
I've got a
we're-
sheet here that's got completely different numbers.
What?
I'll get rid of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Now, the reason I say that is in the tax setting form that you put out there, the estimates for setting taxes, it projected a shortfall in recreation of about $10,000. And if we're only 10,000 off now, wouldn't we kind of make the number by year end?
No, the 10,000 is after this number, the first number.
Right.
When we were at town meeting, that number was 126,000 in estimated taxes.
Oh, it's revised.
It's
okay.
revised for the MS4 and for the tax
So
rate
based on
set.
the original number, we'll
We
be
would
about
be 20
10,000 short.
That's correct. We'll be 12,000. I'm recommending that we change the number by $12,000.
Right, but
tax
based on our
purposes.
original number, we're 20,000 short,
We would be
not 10,000
20,000.
short.
That's correct.
Okay, now 20,000 short, that's our budget number, or is that our actual number? Is that
That's our budget number.
Right, so
To
our
budget.
actual number, this is not showing that we're running at a $20,000 deficit, we're running at probably more of a deficit. But we budgeted for the deficit in there to give us this number. There's a deficit number aside from where we sit
Yes.
with the budget. So the budget,
Yes.
the budget number is one thing, the actual deficit is another.
Yes. If you go down to the recreation department was budgeted at $272,000.
Right.
With $126,000
Coming
in
in.
revenue.
In revenue.
Okay, so we were planning
On
on
losing-
approximately $146,000
That is a
in
lot.
tax money that
Right.
would have to be used
Right.
between the two.
Between the two.
We are spending substantially
Below what we
the
projected.
272.
Right.
And I'm projecting by the sheet that I put in your packets on the tax, at the tax rate settings section, I projected that.
Is that from last week's package or this week's package?
It's this week's package. That we're gonna end up spent about 230 out of the 272.
Right. Okay.
So but we're also reducing the revenue from the
Right.
126 estimated to 114.
Okay, right.
So-
So we're actually 20,000 to our better as
That's
opposed
right.
to 40,000.
That's
Overall.
right.
Right,
Overall.
yeah,
Over-
right,
overall,
yeah.
we're
I was
about
just
20,000 better.
confused when I looked at the
Yes.
revenue numbers. I saw two different
Yeah,
numbers and
yeah.
it threw me for a little bit. So that
Okay.
was really my question. Are there any other questions on the revenue and expense line? No. Mark?
And you said legal was more this year?
Yes, legal is up slightly.
What did we have to do with legal this year? Well, last year was a big legal year, and I thought we raised our budget on that.
No, we kept it exactly the same.
Okay, so we need to pay attention to that for
Yep.
next year. Or people have to stop with these difficult questions.
Right. Okay. Any other questions?
No, fine.
We don't need a motion to approve this, do we?
Nope, nope, you're not
No. I'm gonna hold off on the department head
Yep.
updates, considering
Yep.
the number of people here.
Mhm.
Let's take a look, because it won't take very long on calendars. You had a we need to be available.
Available next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and the week after, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Are those dates, are there any dates that are bad? in
Tuesdays
those?
don't work for me.
Tuesdays don't work for you, okay. So Monday, Wednesday,
Tuesday would
Thursday?
be a challenge. I mean, I can probably get here late in the day.
Okay, how about Monday, Wednesday, Thursdays?
Well,
That's-
and Wednesday, as long as we're in the afternoon, I'm okay.
Yeah, it would be
Um,
the afternoon.
Yeah, Thursday in the afternoon is tough, but if that's when it is, that's when it is. You know?
Okay, so are we talking next week or the week after?
This isn't going to take
Either.
very long, right?
No, probably a half an hour at the most.
Right.
Then I could do,
We'll do it on election day.
Okay.
yeah, why don't we,
We can do it on election day. I just don't know, it depends when I get the paperwork back.
Right.
I mean, I could have the tax rate setting paperwork back any time now.
well, why don't you send us an email when it comes back?
Yes.
And then we'll
Right.
figure out when we can do it.
Right, I just didn't want to,
But generally, I think
Okay.
we're all around, so I think the
Also,
days
that
you
brings up
mentioned
another
are
thing, we've
okay.
got to set our election day schedule before we leave today.
Yeah.
yes.
Well, we're here. Why don't we do that? What time are the polls going to be open?
11 to 7.
11 to 7.
11 to 7?
Are they longer for the general election?
Mm-mm.
No.
No,
11
8
to 7.
hours. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
And how many of us have to be there?
one. Well,
Funny you
Well,
should ask,
it's
because
just-
the attorney tried to answer that question and muddled it up even more.
Good.
So,
What did he say?
um,
Did he muddle it in our favor?
he muddled it by not answering the question. So I think you should plan on the same thing you did
Did last time.
last time.
Right.
I haven't taken the last shift, so I'll take it if it makes it easier for everybody.
So you're going to do
The what, 4 or 5 o'clock till
5
the
to
counting?
7? Yeah, because the problem is the counting goes
Yeah.
well beyond that. You would like early or later? Or middle or earlier?
Early is good for me.
Well, why don't you do 11
To
11 to
1.
yeah, to 1, and then I'll pick it up
1:30,
1 to
yeah.
right. I'll come in from 1 to 5.
Okay.
All right.
And Margaret, if you could be there around
I can
10:30.
do it. I can go to 2, Bill.
All right. Well then, okay, good.
All right.
Why don't you do 11 to 2, and I'll do 2 to 5.
If you could be there around 10:30, just for setup,
Yep.
just to make sure. Okay.
And
All right.
That's the 11th?
Right.
Fourth.
The 4th.
Fourth.
And the next regular selectmen's meeting is on the 12th.
The 12th. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, good. All right, we're going to get to new business. George funding.
Would you like us to come to the table? I've never been to a meeting.
Sure.
Okay.
Why
great.
not?
I'm going to share with you all the annual report for 2013.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. We're, first of all, we're really excited to be here because you all have been so wonderful to the Race Center for so long. But we're here really because we're looking at the future of the Race Center and the funding from the town, which I think you all know has been at $25,000 since at least 18 years, if not more. And
Right.
we have used it well, and continue to use it well. We have to do the operations of the Curious George Cottage with that money, as well as some of our programming. Going forward, quite honestly, the reality of our funding will change. We've had an enormous, generous donor from town for the last several years that will be decreasing their funding. And their funding really has been the mainstay for how we've been providing a lot of our programs in town. Because our grants really fund us to do programs for a lot of social justice kinds of things, or environmental things outside the valley. But when we come to try to do things for us, we really can't get funding anywhere else. We do get donations from a lot of the town folks, I think about 15,000, and we run a couple of fundraisers. But I, as the chair of the board, looking forward, don't know how we'll be able to continue it. We've dropped down our staffing. We now have 2 staff, down from 4. We are not doing the education program anymore at the school, which was an added 8,000. But we're not doing that because it was over 30% of one person's time, and it was too costly for us to do it. I understand they're going to go with the Science Center, which I think makes much more sense. Duplication of the service I thought was not realistic in the first place, and I think that we couldn't duplicate the service outside of this town. So we're asking for a warrant article to be written so that the town can make a decision about this organization. Does it want it? Does it want it to offer programs? If it doesn't, then we will become a very small part of the town. We may have other things that we can do, because we'll get grants. We just won't get them to run the programs we'd love to run for the town. And I think we see ourselves really as the cultural community center of the town. We do different things than the rec department. So we're asking for an increase of double what we've been getting, which is 25,000 to 50,000. We think that with that funding, we'll be able to really provide a lot of the programs that we're providing now, and many more. We also would like to really look at what the town people want. We've started a program committee. We're lucky to have one of the selectmen on that committee. And, you know, we see ourselves also looking at ourselves as a community center. And whatever that means to the town, beyond the rec department, I think we want to be. So, I mean, it's as simple as that.
Okay.
I mean, it's not complicated, and we just wanted to come in and see how you all felt.
So what you're asking us to do is to put a warrant article out there recommending 50,000.
Correct.
Right. We haven't yet begun the budgetary process, but if to get to that amount, we'd have to put a warrant article out. One of the risks you understand with a warrant article is if it gets turned down, then you have no funding. But unless somebody amends it in the meeting, which rarely does happen. But fine, we'll take a look at writing a warrant article. Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Great.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. As taxpayers, we're the ones that are, through our taxes, funding this project, the funding that they're asking for. Or
Absolutely.
that they've normally been getting, the 25,
That's correct.
and the possible 50, should that. They have fundraisers, Meet Curious George in the square or whatever, and I don't see a taxpayer getting a break on ticket prices. Aggie and I have a little bit of a problem with that. We've spoken to some other people. At one point, I don't know what the pricing is now, but at one point, take my grandkids to this thing and meet whatever that they wanted to do was going to cost me in the vicinity of $250. I think that's ridiculous, especially since I'm part of funding it. And I don't think there's been any consideration made to the townspeople with that regard. I understand some of the other things that they do, there's no charge, I get that, but I'm just saying, if you're gonna put something out there and you're gonna charge people, maybe residents could get a break since they're already
Yeah.
funding part of the
Okay.
program.
I don't see what this has to do with the warrant article part of it. Writing the warrant article, and this would be part of the discussion at the town meeting,
Okay.
where if you had a concern about it. But I think if anyone comes to us with a reasonable request to write a warrant article,
Right.
isn't it up to the Ray Center to write the warrant article and for us to?
Well, no, I
We'll
think
write
it's
it.
up
this
to
case,
us.
we'll-
Okay.
if it's a petition, they have to write the article.
They would write
Okay.
the article. In this particular, I don't know, we haven't gotten the budgetary, but my guess would be that we would write the warrant article. At some point in time, the selectmen will have to vote as to whether we can either recommend approval, recommend disapproval, or stay neutral. I mean, you know, and I have no idea which way we go. We get into budget deliberations, but I think reasonably what you're requesting here, in terms of, at least personally, you know, in terms of getting an article out there that townspeople could vote on one way or the other, is preferable than to having you try to do it via petition. So whether we're going to recommend approval, I have no clue. You know, I mean, we'll have to talk about it.
You also can leave the funding at 25,000 within the operating budget and write the warrant article
For another
the
25?
additional 25,000.
Well,
So that way that,
That's
you
one.
know,
we could, yeah,
I
but
mean,
then
that's part of the
I'm not trying to
discussion.
confuse the citizens as to the amount of money. So, you know,
yeah.
yeah, we have to word it in a way that it's clear they understand that what we're spending is 50. Come on in, Lolly. You have to stand.
But I
We're
also,
so popular here.
I also think Bob's comment is worthwhile to pay attention to as you
Sure.
go forward to look for more money from the town. Get some feedback from the townspeople as to what will make it more palatable to get the other $25,000.
Yeah.
Right. I can, do you want me to respond to these?
Well, you're more than entitled to, sure.
So, the reality, I think you're talking about the Curious George Festival?
Yeah.
Okay. That festival was started initially as a fundraiser, and, you know, Rob, chime in anytime you want. It cost us an inordinate, us, the Ray Center, an inordinate amount of money to run that. We got no support from, you know, I won't say no, we'll get a little bit of support from, the mountain and other places, but we basically ran that, and we needed to raise money to continue the other programs. The truth of the matter is, there is no more Curious George Festival. That is it's discontinued because it was so costly for us. So I appreciate how you felt, but it was also a catch-22 for us.
No, I understand that, and just from my perspective and
Sure.
other people,
Sure,
the reason they didn't participate
yeah,
is because of the funding pricing.
right.
So,
And the
you
reason
kinda
we're
sh-
discontinuing it.
So I think you
is
shot
because of
yourself in the
pricing.
foot in
I'm sorry,
What's that-
Rob, what
what'd you
did
say,
you
Rob?
say?
We're discontinuing it, basically, we lose money doing that, even at the pricing. Well, we're running it.
Okay.
So it,
I have
for a
different
lot of reasons,
marketing
it may
views,
not
but
make sense.
we won't get into that.
Okay, so that's the answer for that. There is no
Okay.
more Curious George Festival.
All right. So, I'm going to pause here for a minute and ask the other selectmen, do you have problems with the concept of putting out a warrant article of some type that allows the people in the town to make a decision?
I don't have a problem with that, and I just think that it would be wise for the Ray Center advocates to have a backup plan in the event that the discussion is going in a direction where you might end up with
Right.
nothing. So, you know,
I
the
think, you know,
backup plan being that, you know, somebody
You have
has
to amend
to
it.
vote to amend the
Right.
article.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, that kind of thing. So, but I think it's a very wise thing to do. I think you will get a lot of feedback from the community.
I think that's
one
great.
way-
I think that's what we want.
Yeah.
Mike, do you have a
I
problem
think,
with?
not at all. I think
Put the
Margaret
warrant
said
article.
exactly what I would have
So
said.
you can
Right.
trust that you don't need to worry about a petition. We're not at that stage, but at some point when we get to that stage, we will in fact issue a warrant article. As to whether we recommend approval or not, we have to have that discussion, and we're not gonna do that today.
Okay, but when would you do that? When would that
When,
happen?
budget setting,
It'll be in December.
sometime in December, we'd actually issue the warrant article, but you don't have to feel uncomfortable that you're gonna miss the dates. We'll make sure that a warrant
We'll be in
article
touch.
gets on there,
Yes.
and
I'll stay
we'll
in touch.
consult with you, you know, to make sure that whatever the wording on it is acceptable to the race.
And at town meeting, is it appropriate for us to do a presentation? Is there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay,
You get how many minutes?
Well, it depends on how Marilyn runs it, usually around 10 minutes.
You get about 10 minutes
Okay.
to present your point of view, and we will do that because in this case, it's not likely that the selectmen would try to put a point of view out there.
okay, very good. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
go ahead. Any other questions?
Is there an easy way to know how many years that $25,000 has been in place as $25,000?
Yeah. It's probably about 8 or 9 years.
No, it's been over 18. It used to be,
Well, it used to be, you used to be in the town budget. See, that's the problem.
yeah,
I mean, it's only about 10 years they've been separated from the
10.
town budget.
10,
Yeah,
it's 10.
right.
Yeah. So it's been 10 years
It's a
that
long time.
we've had it under
Yeah.
under the Ray Center, excuse me, yeah.
We'll have all that information as part of the order.
Any other questions relative to the Ray Center? Okay,
Great, thank you so much.
you're welcome. White Mountain Athletic Center tree cutting request. Yeah, they want to cut the tree down across the street.
You have pictures, you have
Yeah.
you have a note in there from Rainey, and you have pictures of what the tree is offending.
Yeah, here's the question that I have with that. That tree's on town property, correct?
Absolutely.
Now, we don't have a forum methodology or anything where someone goes, I don't like this tree, I want to cut it down. Is
Because
there?
nobody is required
I-
to ask your permission except when the tree is on town property.
Yeah.
If it's
Right.
on their
No,
own
well,
property.
it'd be,
Oh, no,
it's
you can
like
cut your own
cutting down a
tree.
tree on someone else's property. They'd have to
Yes.
get permission.
Right.
Exactly, so that's
Yeah.
what
Right.
what they are asking.
I've driven by there a couple of times, and it seemed at one point in time we were trying to build a row of trees along there, along the edge of the property. I mean,
Well, that's the only one
argument
that
is it's ugly. What?
That's the only one that survived.
Survived,
on
all the
that
others
side,
died.
On that
Yeah,
side of
there are
the
a couple
road.
going down to the
There are
Golden
a
Eagle that
couple
are still
going down
there.
to the Golden Eagle
Right.
side, but this tree is the only one on the Valley Road side of the
Yeah.
field.
What do you-
What does the tree interfere with?
The view,
Oh,
the
their view. It's obstructing their view
From the new hot tub.
From the new hot
Oh,
tubs
okay.
and stuff.
Yeah.
It's a view
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
You know what they do on shoreland?
No.
You can't cut from you.
Right. Well, that's
That's the shoreline
true.
protection. Yeah.
But the other side of the coin is the view obstructs the view from the Golden Eagle residence off the athletic club's parking lot.
Well, that's
So-
the only thing.
So
but I
the question
assume
I would
it's-
have before we cut it is it okay with the Golden Eagle people? Where Rainey's go, this is great, I got a better view. The Golden Eagle people go, what the hell? Where's our tree?
I think it's far enough away
Yeah.
that it's.
Yeah.
My guess would be they're not going to object. But I mean, short of notifying everybody and trying to get their opinions, All right. Somebody want to make a motion to give the authorization to cut the tree?
I'd like to make a motion to give the White Mountain Athletic Center the authorization to cut the tree across from the center that is on town land.
I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
There goes the tree.
The offending tree has been removed.
All right. Now we need to budget some time for our next meeting for the people who are upset the tree's gone.
Exactly.
Water sewer bill?
You have the
Right.
commitment. And the water sewer numbers are included in your financial report, and we are on track for the year.
Mark, that raises, I noticed in your write-up, somewhere along the line, you're talking about we're going to finish the water project in next year, and we're now outside the deadline of the years we had to
Yes,
get that thing committed. And you said they've given you a verbal, it's okay to extend. Is
Yes.
any doubt in your mind that they're
No
going to?
doubt.
Okay.
They don't want to return any of the grant money. They want us to use it, so they're not going to
They're not going to
stop
rescind
us.
this thing?
No,
Okay,
they're not.
all right.
However, if you'd like, while you're on that, there's a letter there for your signature, Bill, if the board is okay with it. It was in the packet.
Yeah, all right.
Which just does the formal request for extension.
Sure. All righty. Tax rate setting, have we talked about that?
No, that's just timing. I don't have the paperwork for you yet. So, the numbers, that are in your packet are the adjustments that I've recommended, that we make to the revenues. That's what the draft of the tax rate will be set on, are those numbers in the, it ended up being slightly more revenue than we anticipated at town meeting.
Right.
But no,
Right, but
no
it's still-
appreciable impact on the overall tax rate.
And where does it look like total spending will come out now?
I mean,
There's
department
been a
heads
lot
are,
of-
department heads are trying to do their end of year purchases
Projection?
and projections.
Okay.
Right now, it looks like the rec department will end up about 20,000 underspent.
Mm-hmm.
Public safety, all three of the departments in public safety, I've gone through with Chris. He may have a couple of $1,000s left in those three budgets. And right now, I don't know, Public Works, we've got some additional repairs to make, to some.
To the
some-
well.
To wells and things like that. So I don't have a number for Public Works yet.
Okay.
So
we
what
s-
are we looking at, tax rate last year versus this year?
I don't know where the school ended up.
Uh,
We're gonna end up probably about $1.50 or so more
Right, because we have
on the
all,
town
And
side.
that's because.
we have
because we
all
paid
those
for the
loans coming
ambulance.
online.
Well, we have no, none of those loans are in our debt service this year, okay? However, we
have the
we
ambulance.
put the ambulance in, and we had another $60,000 in fund balance that we applied, and our capital projects that we funded with cash. So those combined together will be about $1. I'm estimating about $1.50.
But that's
On
what
the
we're gonna
town-
review at this special meeting.
That's what
when
we
set it.
review
Okay.
at the special meeting.
All right, might as well get the numbers and then take a look at it.
Yes,
Right.
I
All
will
right.
hope to have those.
The ambulance will be delivered this year?
No, the ambulance will be delivered in January. It's ordered, we've paid the deposit on the ambulance. So we're ready to,
But-
now it's just them building it.
Okay.
So when are we paying the rest of it? Are we paying it in this year or next year?
It's this year's money, it's a capital account.
Okay, so it's already been,
Right, it's
earmarked.
already
Okay,
been earmarked
gotcha.
and it's
And
all.
it's already
ready to go.
authorized.
Yes,
and how much is this Jewel costing us again?
180 is the budget number.
All right, so Mark, you'll send out those
I will.
schedules prior to the meeting?
I will.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Anything else on tax rate setting? We get the numbers.
No, so we're figuring out another $1.50, so we're gonna be,
On the town side, I don't know what the school, remember, they
So-
had an increase in their.
But that's what we projected at the beginning
what
of the
we
year.
that's why we,
projected at the
we
beginning.
tried to get the exception from the
That-
state to
that's
split it in
correct.
half.
Right.
So our
correct.
tax rate will be going up from $12.40 per thousand to roughly $14 per thousand, if not more.
Depending on what happened
Yeah.
with the county and the school.
Yeah, so we're
I
gonna
don't
be
know
over
those.
14.
Yeah, we're
Well-
gonna be a little over 14.
And as Bill keeps trying to say, I think we also have a decision to make about the undesignated fund.
Right,
balance
but still
and
with
raise it
that
back to even.
undesignated fund, there's
Yeah.
not gonna be a lot that's gonna be able to offset that, because we wanna keep a
We
healthy
wanna keep enough so that we don't have to borrow.
Borrow money.
Borrow
during
money
the
again.
year.
Right.
Yes, so. But I'll get all of those numbers together as soon as I get something from DRA.
Okay. All right. Tubing Hill, sign request.
Yeah,
They
this is the
basically
first
wanna do
one.
what they
This
did
is what
last year?
Bill Carr gave us. It's the same signage sign package that they had last year
Right.
with the banner ad, or the banner on the golf clubhouse. And
Right.
this is the actual application with the colors.
Right.
I know your packet was black and white, but if you wanna look at the color, this is separate from the bus stuff. This is.
Right.
So, the request is to do the same signs as last year.
Okay,
I have no problem with it at
no
all.
problem either.
Do I hear a motion then to approve the Tubing Hill sign request?
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Aye. The Bus system.
I have to admit, I was nervous when you brought up the tubing hill.
Yeah,
But
oh,
it
that's,
sounds like Bill Carr was
Bill
ahead of
Carr,
us,
Bill Carr covered that.
as he is, usually is. So that's great. So the first thing I'd like to do is discuss kind of one thing that came up as both internally and from the town, and pretty much everyone out there knows, the bus system just did not run incredibly well last year for a variety of different reasons. So we had discussed coming back to the town and kind of outlining a bit of a proposal in terms of how some of the changes we'd like to see made to frankly just increase reliability and functionality of it. The main goal being to get more people to actually use it, both transient customers as well as
I'm sorry.
our homeowners, which that's where we found really the biggest drop off in use in recent years is actually having homeowners use the system. So a couple things. And I also just want to introduce, this is Tim Smith. Tim, I don't know if you've met Tim. Tim is the new Keith. He looks a little different than Keith Sutherland, but
Nice to
new
meet you,
director of
Tim.
Mountain Operations.
Get him some Red Bull, he'll be fine.
Yeah. A lot of Red Bull. So Tim, as our director of Mountain Operations, again oversees our entire transportation department, that including the bus system, vehicle maintenance, all those sorts of things. And a lot of you recognize bus driver Andy. Thank God he's back. We
Okay.
brought him back
Oh,
on
I
board.
do recognize
Yeah.
bus driver. Yeah.
Andy, we wasn't with us last year, but in one of our needs to kind of revamp the system, we brought back someone who really knows what they're doing, which I think that alone will help greatly. So there's a couple things we'd like to propose. Structurally, right now, as we all know, the bus leaves from the ski area corral in season. And I think, sorry, let me preface all this. I'd like to have the discussion really based around the ski season right now.
Sure.
I think the summer season with the trolley staying on the valley floor, it remains flexible, it does pretty well. We're not proposing any changes to that just yet. I think we'll probably do get our customer feedback from the summer. And if there's some changes or ideas or things that might even offshoot from what we're proposing this season, maybe in the spring we can come back and revisit those. But we've never had any real issues with the summer. It's really that winter schedule for a variety of reasons. The bus comes down from the corral and stops at approximately 30 stops around the valley and then continues back up. The problems we've had in the past are unreliability. You're not quite sure when it's going to show up. It's a very long route in that if you're one of the first stops, you have to get on one of the first stops. You might be on that bus for over 30 or 40 minutes sometimes, depending on what's going on and weather, to get all the way back up to the mountain. And if someone's faced with the choice with riding the bus for 40 minutes or hopping in their car, even though they have to park and there's a little uphill walking, they'd rather do that than ride the bus for 40 minutes. So what we are proposing, and this is a bit, we don't have to go through all the details and numbers, is a 2-loop system. So 2 smaller loops instead of 1 big loop. I'll let you just pass these around.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, you guys already had it, great.
Yeah.
So 2 smaller loops, we're calling it a red loop and a green loop, and we can, just for the sake of this discussion, we'll keep it as red and green. Each loop, the first loop having about 12 stops, and we'll call those more the transient stops. That's where it's stopping at more of the hotels and lodges. And then a secondary loop, call it the green loop, where it's stopping at more of the condo associations. We're proposing this strictly for midweek right now. And
Okay.
what we're doing is we're designating real set times. So the bus will be there, under this plan, the bus shows up at the Lower North Face stop at 8:40, 9:40, 10:40, 12:10, 1:40. So really give people a true sense of when it's going to be there. I think ultimately this could reduce the frequency of stops by 1 or 2 per day, but the reliability is right there. You know when it's going to be there. And that puts the onus on us, on the drivers, on the system to meet those times. And what we're going for here is really reliability. So people aren't just waiting on the corner, hoping sometime in the future a bus comes around the corner. It also, again, by going to the 2-loop system, it really makes sure that within about 20-25 minutes, you're with either of these loops, even if you're one of the first people on, you're back up at the mountain. And if you're at one of the mid stops or later stops, you're up there within 5 to 10 minutes. It extends out. The way the current loop is, it kind of runs the valley floor and heads right back up the main ski area road. With the redevelopment of the connector from Depot Camp up to Triple I, we think that that's an opportunity. We could actually potentially even add a stop out on River Road, something like that, which typically doesn't really have access. It also allows for the bus to go from Town Square to Depot Camp for those cross-country skiers who
Mhm.
want to head out to Depot Camp. Now they know exactly when they can get the bus at Town Square. It takes them right to Depot Camp, only 5 minutes away. And again, it just provides much better access to the cross-country system, which we think will be a nice guest amenity. Second to this is we really want to revamp all the signs. I mean, right now, most of the bus stop signs are like a 8.5 11 by 11 piece of paper. It just says bus stop. We're proposing. I can pass these out. I don't know if you have this already.
They got a picture of
Okay,
one.
yep.
Yeah.
So we're proposing a new bus stop sign. I don't know where to aim this. Again, that just clearly outlines the name of the stop number, phone number in case of emergencies, so you
Right.
can call, or an email address if you have questions, comments, anything like that. The actual designated times during weekdays. During weekends, we still propose running on basically a 15-20 minute schedule, because on the weekends we're really running almost at full capacity. That's where we don't really have a whole lot of complaints, because the buses are running so frequently. So there will on those
Would there
days
still
it's
be 2 routes or just 1 route?
Still 2 routes.
Okay.
But we're not setting designated times
Gotcha.
on the weekends. And again, we're really just kind of proposing this as an initial first step. We think this is a good. My guess is that we'll see how it plays out. We've driven these routes a couple times, and we think the timing is pretty good. But we'll have to work a few of the bugs out of the system. If we really need to go to designated times on the weekends, it would create some problems, but we could probably figure that out. Or we think again, this is kind of a good first step to making the system that much more reliable. One of the biggest comments we did get is a lot of people who aren't familiar, if they're just renting a condo or they're not familiar with the area, they can't see the bus stop sign. So we do want to propose making these bigger. In fact, I brought. This is 18 by 24. This size, and this is the tentative size we would propose. Originally they wanted 2 by 3. I think that's a little too big, too obnoxious. So we tried to, given that they get covered in snow drifts, kind of taking this design roughly with this size, and again doing the entire system, not just a couple of the signs, doing the whole system over again for that continuity. Would also add onto our website a much more robust transportation site on there that has a full map on it, full schedules for every stop on it. Again, all the information for times and locations. And of course, as you can see on the sign, in inclement weather, I mean, we have to be reasonable here. During major snowstorms, we could be off some of these stops by a minute or two. But again, I think we'll see how we work those bugs out as we go through the system. So it's different. It's a very different approach. Again, it's all in the name of creating reliability and just better customer service to get people up to that mountain faster and get them down faster. The last thing I would add is on Saturdays.
Now, I did
sorry.
happen to notice that the example that you gave of the signs for Windsor Hill, the time for the buses were different than the times of the buses.
that
running,
was
but
just
these are the times.
Those
that
are the times. This is
that
just
would
for
go on
graphic.
there. It's just an
Our
example.
graphic designer just
Okay.
doing times just conceptually to understand how it would look.
Okay.
We thought about making one line the Bruce the Moose line and one line maybe Curious George. I don't know if we could get permission for that, just to make it a little easier for the a little more customer friendly for the kids.
Sure.
The buses would be designated right in the front window, whether you're a red bus or a green bus, so it's nice and clear. Up at our ski area corral, again, if you're a green bus, it would have all the stops listed, and you get on over here. The red bus would get on in one area. Really designing the system like a municipal transit system should be designed, like other ones typically are. So that's kind of our rough proposal, and again, we're open to a lot of ideas. The last thing I did want to add was on Saturday nights we will be running the bus down from the mountain. The last bus won't leave until 7 o'clock, so we'll run 4, 5, 6, and 7 o'clock. We're going to try to. We've gotten a lot of requests to keep the restaurants and things like that and open up there, so we're going to do that, and again, just create that reliability so people don't have to wait to listen to last call and the whole thing to see when the buses leave.
Chris, I assume that the blue portion at the bottom would be a hangar in case you have to change.
That's
it in
absolutely right.
the
You'll notice
future.
the 2 little holes here. So the blue portion would hang down, and again, we can also, depending on what we want to do in the summer, would have the seasonal message there. Maybe there's a whole different way we want to run this in the summer because of the summer trolley. But that would give us the flexibility, and it also gives us the flexibility if 840, we realize that really needs to be 843, we can take it down, change it without doing the entire sign. It just gives us a little more flexibility. But this would be a fixed sign, just like we have now, just a little bigger, a little clearer.
Just, this matches most of the draft comments in the
From-
pedestrian study.
Right.
So it's the types of things that they're hearing also to improve reliability and things like that.
Mark, I haven't looked, is this what they're proposing to do consistent with with the sign regulations and zoning ordinance?
Yes, you can, it is under the minimum size.
I mean, it's under the size.
It's under the size.
I know we specify a maximum
of 3
size.
by
and-
5,
and- right,
yes.
so they're under that size.
They're under that
all right.
size,
And
then
it
the
clearly
rest
is a
up to you.
directional sign, right? All of these, I'm
It's an
assuming, are on our
informational sign.
property?
Well, that's
Or
that's
on
my
town
question.
right away?
No, well, some of them are, some of them will be on private property.
And you'll need to get okays from the private groups to put the signs
I
up.
don't think we can we can't authorize them to put them on
Well,
private
there are
property, can we?
existing signs in all but 2 or 3 of the locations. There are already bus signs out there. They've
Well,
been there for
okay, I
15
guess we'd have to take a
years,
look.
so-
But it's not on,
Signs we have each bus stop.
Yeah, it's
So in
just
other
like
words,
it
if
is
there's a
now.
stop right outside my house, you're gonna have one of these signs. I'm not against, I think we have like 10 signs right by the bridge.
Yeah.
So one more sign and
Yeah, well, all the bus stops, it's just replacing the existing signs that say bus stop now.
Yes.
Right.
They're out there now. They're
Bus
just.
stop.
but there'd be more of them.
But you're gonna add
Well,
some, aren't you?
The
They'll be
what would
added.
add one more on River Road
Okay.
and one more at
You
Depot
add-
Camp.
I think you add like,
2?
I think there are 28 out there now.
Oh, okay, so
But
so
maybe
this is
not.
gonna
Maybe
go
there
where
may
the
be
existing
more, but
signs
those
are.
aren't that big.
They would,
No.
they are not. They are
These are
smaller.
right in the
They're
face.
smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, the size you guys. So I guess we're going to the town because obviously you guys are one of the big drivers here. I think the majority of the signs are probably on your property. We're not
Majority
really.
of them are on.
There's a couple that I suppose we're adding on I guess River Road, Depot Camp, and
Well, I think what you'd add on River Road is our property.
yeah,
right?
I think
there's
it
a
is,
right of way
actually.
on the side of the road. I mean,
My-
it may look like homeowners' property, but it's generally not.
Yeah.
I would just think that if you're adding something on a private property, a condominium association, a courtesy letter should go out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't foresee
Just,
that.
I don't know
at
if there
least.
is or not.
Andy, do you know? I mean, where in terms of where we're stopping now?
Black Bear, or the
Yeah, Black Bear. would be
Black
fine.
Bear, Golden Eagle, BBTS possibly, and there's a sign by the tennis center. I think the rest of them
Would all be on town property.
We're all on right of ways.
would all be on right of ways except for High Country. High Country and
Country.
North Face. Those are both private.
Okay. I'll talk to the High Country.
And I don't, Depot, is that Forest Service property?
It is.
It is. It is.
So you'd have to get their permission. Bob, go ahead.
Yeah.
At the last planning board meeting, we were told that we were gonna get the pedestrian, the study was gonna, probably this week or next week?
I
did
believe
Mark say?
next week.
Next week? I'm just wondering if we shouldn't get that study. This sounds a lot like what's in there, but I'm just wondering if prior to making decisions, unless you're just deciding on the size of the sign, not.
That's all we're deciding on.
Okay.
We don't operate the bus system.
All right.
Town has really no say in terms of actual operation of
Okay,
the
I
bus
just wanted to
system.
make sure that we could take a look at what's being proposed, what we're paying for,
Right.
and look at all of that
Yeah.
and see how it falls into your plan. It may be identical, it may be a little off or whatever, but I think we ought to at least give that some consideration.
And we pay. Just to be clear, just so we pay for all the
Yeah.
capital upgrades. I mean,
Right.
the town pays their
Yeah,
portion.
you're
The
paying for
lodging
the signs,
association
right,
pays
yeah,
their portion.
right.
But all the whether it's buying a bus or buying a sign, we do all that.
Yeah,
Right.
They
Out of
just
those funds.
went in and gathered information on whatever, you know, and
Yeah.
I
My
think
only
we ought to
hes-
use their data for.
I think it's a
some-
very good idea. My only hesitation is would like to get the system up and running by the time we open. So I'm not sure how that plays into your timing. I wouldn't want to delay it too much because it's important to get that information out even before we open, frankly, so people understand it's a new system, how to use it, and hopefully
You
encourage.
know, like this, it's a private enterprise. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's
private
your dime
business. You
pretty
make your
much.
own decisions. I mean, you can listen to the feedback here, and but I don't know whether the town. I mean, unless the town has any feedback. I mean, the only thing does your sign conform to the zoning ordinance? That's
Yeah.
all. I mean, that's what we were
Great.
focused on. Yeah, go ahead.
This may seem picky, and I don't know what the official colors of the mountain are at this point, but from a graphic point of view, you want more visibility, and red and green are the visibility colors by far outside, and as a longtime resident, if I drove around the valley and saw 30 of those to me are BBTS colors, period. All the BBTS logos and the
Yeah.
bumper stickers and everything else are blue and black.
Yeah. I can tell you, we wouldn't use red because I think that implies something with emergency.
But blue and green,
Yeah.
Blue and green are like Waterville.
Yep,
Like the
we could make
logo
it
on
blue
the
and
top.
green, it,
How about a
again.
green sign will blend in with the trees? We don't see a sign.
Well, I think that's what we're going for with the dark here, to blend this in as best we could and still contrast with snow, because you get these snow drifts that build on it a little bit. We're trying to be a little more subtle than the green. And that's where, again, I do look for the town's assessment here, only because it'll be, whatever it is, it's going to be consistent. I don't want to
provide input on the color.
Yeah,
We don't have to, but-
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we're more than welcome. The individual selectmen are more than welcome to provide input.
Well, no, I mean, as a
I don't-
board, that's part of your, part
Oh,
of what's
on
in the
signs.
zoning ordinance.
Yeah,
That's
not to
part
put it on
of
the
what
spot,
you're-
but
Sign is not unattractive to me. I think having a schedule out there is a significant improvement over what it was.
I think we need something
personally.
that's gonna hold out in the weather, which is very
Yeah.
important,
Yeah.
and stand out in the weather.
Right.
Forest green.
May I just make a comment regarding the route? Working at the rec department for many years, and I think Andy can probably support this, we have one stop that is directly across the street from the rec department and is actually overshadowed by some shrubbery that people have put up front there. I'm wondering if this might impact or be the time to say, let's make the rec department that stop.
Are you talking about Verizon?
Yes,
That's a very
well,
fair point.
next door
Yeah,
to
no, I
Verizon.
just
But, yep.
wanted to call it Verizon to be,
Yeah, that's the Fairpoint stop.
Yeah,
The
Fairpoint,
Wrights have
whatever.
a shrub that they planted years ago that was this tall, and it is now this tall, and you can't see the sign.
And we're often making calls to Mountain Transportation to say, hey, I've got a group of like 20 or 30 here at the rec department. Can you stop here and pick them up? I'm just wondering if it might be worthwhile to make that one of the stops on the route.
would that work? So we just pick them up on the way down, so they don't have to cross the street. Yeah, that'd be great. That's the kind of stuff that's exactly what we're looking for now. I guess our feeling is we're going to make a significant change,
good
so
idea,
now's the
Tom.
time to get all the
provide
input
shelter
and
too over
we're
there.
gonna change
Yeah.
it. We're
Yeah,
happy to
rather
do
than
it.
send them across the street.
Yeah, it's probably too early for this part, so this probably will get done, but, again, that pedestrian study talks about branding. Part of the branding, maybe a color scheme or whatever that goes along with, and that's not set yet, I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
It would be nice in the future, that all branding or a material that had to do with branding Waterville, from whether it's a mountain, a town, or whatever, be kind of consistent.
Whereas I personally, would agree with you. I don't
But that can be
think
done later.
we're
No, I'm
going to
saying
have to
this is-
write some changes to some rules if we want to make,
Yeah.
it
This is-
enforceable.
What I'm saying is too early for this, I
Yeah.
understand
Oh,
that.
okay.
I'm just saying
Yeah.
keep an eye out only for that in the future.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think I'm spot on, and I think it is forest green, but it's dark there. You're right, yeah. But you're right. Like I think that's what he was shooting for. Was a forest green, and I think the typical Waterville light green was considered a little too flashy, if you will, on a sign that.
But the current
was
signs are
potential-
forest green, so.
Exactly. Yeah,
So the
we'll
forest
use that
green
same
and blue
green
can
that's in
be-
the existing.
Are there
signs.
any safety issues that you have with any of the stops, Chris, that we should talk?
I think that's a better situation at the rec.
I think that's a great one. It provides shelter for people waiting. They can wait under the overhang there.
The
You
only
got
feedback I
parking.
have is it says for emergency call.
Maybe.
Right.
As opposed to a town emergency, right?
How about, I mean, is it really an emergency, or is it for assistance
For
or for
buses.
questions?
Assistance.
What would prompt somebody to call that number? What would you want somebody to call that number?
They call that number for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it goes right to Andy.
I think assistance is the word to use.
Assistance.
Yeah, for
Change it to
assistance.
assistance.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that. And then of course we have the website and the for comments or people that want.
David?
Did you say that the town contributes 25% to
That's
the?
correct.
Then why wouldn't the town have some
We-
say?
We certainly do in the context of, we don't have to support it. The bus system is owned and operated by the mountain by an agreement for many, many years. It basically, the cost of operating this, and if I'm wrong here now, correct me, Mark, but we're 25% is borne by the taxpayers of the town. 25% is borne by the.
50, oh, you're right, I'm sorry.
25% is borne by members of the resort association, essentially. It's all the inns, condos, lodges. 50% is borne by the mountain itself. And that's been an agreement that's been in place for,
Since the 1990s.
I understand, but it,
yeah. Does it give us
sounded
any
as if
say?
you were giving the mountain 100% of the say over whether, for example, they'd run on biofuel, or whether, for example, you would institute some encouraging devices to get more people to ride, in addition to improving efficiency.
Right. And I kind of support what Bob is saying a little bit. When the results come back from the village study thing here, they're looking at the transportation system as a whole, and and they're looking at issues as to, many along the lines of what you're saying. Who ought to run it? What it'll look like? And it could, and at that time there may be other issues that get addressed. But that's. I don't see that affecting this season.
The town like to
Possibly
take
not,
over
but
the bus
I'm-
system.
Right.
Yeah,
I would rather that the town had a larger say in what happened than simply saying it's a private business, we don't have anything to influence it.
Well, other than we can withhold our 25%.
No, David, I see the point you're taking with this, and this is something, there hasn't been a formal agreement in how many years written we have. When's the last one we
That
found?
talks to.
So we're in the process of refiguring out, actually that's another part of our conversation for later, refiguring out who does what and what has been
Right.
the rest. We're dealing with a traditional situation where up until now the town has not had a group of people that are willing to be involved, and the resort association the same way. We've left it to the mountain to make the decisions.
Since 2006, David. That
Yeah.
was the last time we had input into where the bus stopped and everything else. Because we had a transit authority that was active up until that point. But they haven't done anything since 2006.
And I think that's part of this whole exercise,
And that's
to kind
part
of
of
Right.
the
Let's
let's
pedestrian-
reassess
yes,
what the heck we're
that's-
doing and how
Yep.
we do it, so.
Yep.
Very much.
I would throw one comment out there that has something to do, which I've heard from a long way that you folks might want to consider going forward if you're going to make some bus changes this year. Running an express bus during the day from the mountain to town square. So people, it will help the stores for as far as commerce. It will help develop people coming who are sitting up there that don't want to go 55 minutes to get a sandwich or get their mail. And I think people would use it as a parking venue and a way to coordinate with other people if they knew they could get on a bus and it's going just to town square and coming right back.
That's what
We,
There would kind
Yeah.
of be like the red line in that there's only
Yeah.
10 stops on the red line midweek, but on the weekends.
But this would be just someone who, I remember from being up there, all the families, the people who didn't ski sitting around wanting to do something. And if you could tell them, oh, just get on the bus, it'll take you right there, and when you want to come back, it'll get you there instead of figuring,
Right.
well, I said I'd meet the kids at 2, and the buses, it's like, now 1:15, I'm not going to meet them.
I think what they're proposing, the red line would be a half hour, half hour from the mountain to town square, right?
Right.
We've actually done the express route. We did it probably 15 years ago.
Yeah.
15 minutes.
And it was deemed that it was not worth
Yeah,
the
oh yeah,
expense.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
We had very, very little traffic on it. Dick Nixon ran it.
Well, there you go.
Well, you have a 15-minute run from the
Wow.
mountain
Yeah.
to
Right.
town square on the red line.
Yes,
on the
it's,
red
yeah.
line.
it's pretty
So-
darn,
So that's pretty fast, so.
yeah, it goes directly there, and I think it makes 4 stops, or a few stops before it gets there. So, but it's an idea. Yeah, we can look at doing it. I think maybe it was just one day. Maybe it was just on Saturdays and
Yeah,
Sundays
Saturday.
or something like that.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're looking for approval of the sign application here, right?
Well, I didn't see a sign application
Well,
for these
there-
signs.
No, I
is
did
a-
not do
Oh,
a
okay.
sign application, to be honest.
Because he wanted to talk to you
Okay.
about the format of the
Yeah.
signs. Are you
If
okay
conceptually you thought it was
Yeah.
way off, I didn't even want to waste your time. with
I
it,
think
but
the
we
fact
can
that they're
sit
going to be
down.
uniform
Mm-hmm.
is great, of the same size visible. It's worth a shot to try to improve the system.
I you know, again, emotionally, do you want more signs out there? No, but if you're gonna run a bus system, you gotta let people know where the bus stops are, and I would contend the signs right now just too darn small, and it's largely become, you stand wherever you want, and the guy rides along and picks you up.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that makes a whole bunch of sense.
Yeah.
And personally, I like the fact you're trying to run it down to River Road and Depot Camp, but yeah, we'll see if it
I
works
guess
out.
the only other comment would be, if these signs are up and you have the set schedule, don't have the bus drivers stop in between the stops.
Right.
I mean, I think that's, it, a lot of, I think, the timing issues have been, oh, please, this is my driveway, even though
Right.
there's a stop
Right.
100 feet down the road.
To-
People have to understand it's a system
Yeah.
and it needs to be at the stops.
And I think on getting off, yes, and I don't mean to speak for you, Andy, my caution there is if someone's out kind of in the middle of the road, I think we always hesitate on stopping to pick up just for safety. I'd rather slow down and pick them up and be 30 seconds late at the next stop than risk having someone walk down the slippery sidewalks or you know, where there might not be a sidewalk. I don't know, Andy, what are your thoughts there? Because you guys are the ones handling it.
Well, we really do need to get back to the bus stops. It's gonna add, it's gonna subtract time.
Yeah.
We're trying to become dependable. That's what we're going to need to do. It's
I
two-way
think
street though.
I think people have asked to be dropped off and picked up in other
Random
areas
locations,
because
sure.
there wasn't a
Yes.
system. Once the system starts running and you're on time and you're
Right.
there when you're supposed to be, people will walk that extra 100 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
You're gonna need to do a lot of publicity because along the condo, especially on noon peak, people wait,
That's
Yeah.
right.
assuming the bus will stop.
That's right.
So what are you gonna do, drive right by them?
Well, yeah, that's
Well, once they know
that's the
that.
hard
Well, they
part.
won't, but yeah, but these are
Yeah.
people who are here.
They might have to miss
They're
it.
not
It's a bus
regular
system,
residents,
not a
so they're
chauffeur.
here
Right.
every once in a while.
When you cave once.
But as soon as you cave, it'll be over and you'll be right back to the old system.
No, I'm with you there.
Probably even just a form letter to the presidents of the association.
Oh, we'll send something out to all the
Yeah.
homeowners, the associations, we'll post it. This, once we dial it in, we'll publicize it as heavily
Well,
as we
put it,
possibly
I
can.
would suggest you could write an article to give it to David in the wigwam.
Yeah, seriously, we'll
right?
post the whole schedule in the
Yeah,
paper.
but
and everything.
people
That
who
the
live
bus
here on
system has
weekends,
changed.
Yeah.
they don't read the wigwam.
Well,
They don't
that's
even know about
as good a shot as any. I mean, in
can
terms
only
of-
do
I
what
think
you
they
can
do
do.
read the
All the
wigwam.
Each
associations.
association, somebody rents
We'll,
it, and
Absolutely.
post it right in their condo.
And have a letter from the hotels, all the
We'll
hotels give them a
post
letter.
it in the post office.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Which again goes to, I would prefer not to wait only because we gotta really get
Right.
moving here and get the signs ordered.
So you're okay with the signs?
I'm okay with the signs. I need to, just one caveat, I would like to go back and read the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
I don't off the top of my head believe there's any issue, but I wanna
Okay.
make sure that it's not that we don't have some glitch in there that says you can't have a sign that
Yep.
does such and such. It's
Yeah.
silly language in there sometimes.
We'll probably place the order and start doing the signs in about a week. So if there are any other comments.
Well, I would submit a sign request then,
Yeah, yeah, we'll try to get that in as soon as we can.
you know, I mean, because we haven't voted to approve it.
Right. No, understood.
Right, okay.
The next thing we did want to talk about, and I don't know if you got a copy of our
I
budget
did.
proposal.
Yep,
So again, we've talked about this a few times. We
Yep.
went back, and again, we take a lot of pride in keeping very tight numbers in terms of what we actually spend within the transportation system itself. As you can see from what we submitted, we essentially bring in a total revenue amount of just over $107,000 last year. 96 of which came from a combination of 48 from the town and 48 from the lodging community. Then you have all of our costs, total expenses and payroll and operating costs come to just over $237,000, which leaves us with a net loss of last year was about $130,000. So to David's point, if the town wants to take over paying that bill and making all the decisions, by all means, let me know. I'd love not to shove. You can take the $130,000 bill every year. But to the point that you folks brought up, typically we run 25%.
right.
For the past 3 or 4 or since I've been here, so the past 4 years, that number's been about $48,000, and it's never really adjusted. Now, as fuel has gone up, as a lot of things have changed, our costs go up, but we just keep billing the same amount to everybody because frankly we don't want to rock the boat, and we just have eaten that additional cost, the remainder going up to the 25%. This year, our current year budget, total net operating costs, and by that I mean we've credited back our own internal use that we don't charge the town for. That comes to about $12,000, and we've outlined that to you guys before, where that $12,000 comes from. Total net operating costs being about $225,000, just shy of, and 25% of that would be $56,000, not the $48,000 you've typically been paying. So that's what we wanted to propose to you. It is an increase, especially considering we're trying to revamp the system, make it more reliable. There's costs associated with that, paying for the signs and all that, and just the fact that it's 25%. I mean, that's really what the number is. Now, what we don't typically do, we typically just bill kind of $48,000 to the town, and we take that, and it's always a little short of the 25%, and that's fine. One idea was we could just keep truing it up at the end of the year. Now that I think we have a really tight assessment of the numbers, maybe 56 is what's budgeted for this year, but at the end of the year, for 25% of the net cost, but maybe at the end of the year it's more like 50, maybe it's 58, I don't know. That's just an idea. Just to make sure that we're always right on that 25% going forward, and there's no discrepancy there. But we just want you to know that that's kind of where we stood, and that's what we're proposing to the town. It is it's technically a 17% increase from 48,000 to 56.
To 56, yeah. I read your proposal. Let me make sure that, so this is to be paid when, in 2015?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
our 2000.
So this would be in next year's budget?
Yes.
Not this year's budget?
Not this
Okay.
year.
I have a couple of questions about the numbers on here, just to make sure that I understand them.
Sure.
The annual depreciation on the buses,
Mm.
this is an actual line item in your accounting? Is
Yeah.
that what your current depreciation just on the buses is?
That's right.
59,000.
I believe so. Yeah.
So that in future years, if you don't replace buses and that depreciation schedule runs down, I don't know what method of depreciation you're using, but it's probably accelerated as best you can.
Yes.
That number could go down quite a bit.
Absolutely.
So consequently, the formula would stay the same. We're not, because
right.
I accept the fact that there's got to be some number in there for replacement cost of vehicles. Depreciation is as good an estimate as any.
Yeah.
And but in the future, if that number were to change up or down, it would be reflected that way. And this is not an average over the last couple of years. This is actually the number that you're scheduled.
That's the number from our accounting group for that current year, which again goes back to that whole idea of if you wanted to do it, we
Right.
could just do a true up that might help save some money.
Let me also make a comment that in one case, the budget is based on fully allocating costs, including depreciation. When I looked at your piece, and I genuinely appreciate all the data you gave us here, and maybe you wish you didn't give us all this data, where you said, well, essentially 8,000 miles, and what does it cost to run the bus 8,000 miles for your internal use? They generally just looked at direct costs when they did it that way. They looked at how much does the labor, how much is the fuel, and some of the things such as the manager, the repairs and maintenance, and the depreciation didn't get in those numbers,
Mhm.
all right? And I don't think that's fair. I think if we're going to say the cost of running the system ought to be fully allocated for R25, then I think the cost of your usage ought to be fully allocated. So I looked at the numbers and did just a back of the envelope calculation a slightly different way. And here's what I did. I took and these are all your numbers.
Sure.
I took the total cost of fuel of $38,800 a year and divided that by the $4 a gallon for diesel that you had on the one spreadsheet, and then divided that by 6.5 miles per gallon, and came up with the bus system runs about 63,000 miles a year, of which, well, that's what the calculation yields, 63,000 miles, and seemed reasonable. When I looked at number of trips, it was in the ballpark of about the total mileage that's being used, all right? Then when I looked at, well, okay, what's 8,000 as a percentage of 63, I come up with a number of about 12.5% is for your use and the rest is for ours, all right? When I look at, so 87.3% of the costs, the fully allocated costs, ought to be going to the piece that we pay 25%. When I do that calculation, I come up with a number that's more like 52,000, not 56,000. So I don't know whether you want to go back and look at these. I can support going to 52 because I think, in all honesty, we want to make this bus system, give it a try, but I don't like mixing apples and oranges on your spreadsheets here, the way you did it. My opinion. Any other thoughts?
Better thought out opinion than I would have.
No, that makes sense. I gotta be honest, I know we submitted something to people, I don't have it in front of me, I apologize.
Right.
So I guess you're proposing, don't do it on a straight cost basis, do it on a cost per mile basis.
Well, whatever
And allocate
method,
a
but
certain
whatever
amount of miles
method,
to
we
us
ought to
and
both
stuff.
be using the same sets of numbers. In your case, when you said, what does it cost in the mountain to run the thing, for it to pick up its employees, you never included depreciation, you never
Right.
included the manager. You know, when you looked at our costs, you did include them. So I'm just saying, whatever method you use, and I would contend you really
Sure.
want to use fully allocated, including the cost of getting the buses and the rest.
Sure.
You know, and back out your costs. And I came up with a number somewhere around 52.
And again,
Just doing a quick calculation.
that's,
Not far
and
off
again,
of
I don't know the
56.
numbers. Andy,
And it's
but-
higher than our 48 right
Yeah.
now.
And that's on a, I don't know what the true mileage numbers are either.
Neither
You know,
do I.
6.5 miles
I
again,
have no
don't know.
clue.
Yeah.
Well, I just took your numbers.
Okay. So I guess what we'll do is, let me go back. Do you have something you can send, or do you want to give me?
I
at the end of
can
the day-
send it to you.
I got to give it to the real
Sure,
man.
I'll give it to
I'll
you.
hand it over to John.
Yeah, I'll make a
John.
spreadsheet and
Yeah.
I'll email it to you. Sure,
Okay.
no problem.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
All right.
But at the end of the day, again, we're not trying to stick it to the town by
No,
any
I
means. It's
know.
just what the
Yeah.
costs are.
No, I
So
just-
somewhere in there is probably.
I very much would like to get to a formula that we could agree. This is the same formula we use every year.
Exactly.
You fill in the numbers.
Just consistency.
You know, and then we'll go from there. And and we're close here.
Yep.
You know.
Okay. If you don't mind
and I
sending me-
do would agree with you that the 48's probably a little bit low for
Yeah.
next year.
I
Basically.
mean, with even though diesel's coming down, it's a little different than where we were.
$4 is not an unreasonable estimate.
And you know, my hope, we can't say it just yet, but my hope is that this new system
Right.
can save some money,
Right.
whether it's in fuel or labor or you know.
I hope
couple
more
other
people
means.
ride the bus.
Right.
I
And
will.
that's-
You get that bus out the river road, I'll take the bus.
No, look, the fact that we have to eat 130,000 a year on a
Right.
bus system that is getting less and less usage,
It's
as much as
it's
it pains you, it
difficult.
pains us almost 3 times as much.
I understand.
So yeah, it's all about the usage, and if it works, it is a great amenity. It's
Right.
a huge part of the town, a huge part of our brand, and
Right.
what the place was developed on. So, I think step one, let's make sure the system's running right. If you send me your numbers,
I will.
we'll get a consistent formula so we can just move forward,
Sure.
you know, without having to worry about it. But yeah, I think we're all right on the same page.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I want to echo Bill's opinion. I really appreciate having the data that we do. I know we've had several discussions about how much does it cost for the internal use type
Yeah.
of thing, and it was just nice to see
You
some
see
numbers.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
right. So I
Yeah.
really do appreciate it,
Yeah.
and I, just speaking personally, I think you're on the right track on the weekdays on the schedule. I really do. I think it'd be a big improvement.
Are you going to take the bus?
I will take the bus. Yeah, right. I'll take the bus.
We should probably have.
If you
a,
get the bus to River Road, I'll take the
I
bus.
used to take the bus,
Is
but I
that just
stopped
the-
taking it when I had
is that from your
40 minutes
Right.
to get
Yeah,
back
it was.
down.
Okay, no.
Right.
Me too.
If I know it's coming at 8:15, I can get over there and get it at 8:15. Yeah.
And it'll be an hour earlier, I assume, on the weekends.
At my house.
I don't.
I'll
Marilyn,
walk over.
I'm sorry, Marilyn, go ahead.
Chris, a couple of selectmen's meetings ago, we talked about the concept of Valley residents being able to ride the bus to Plymouth when you're taking staff. Is that possible?
To ride, so like in the morning.
Is it true that, first of all, is this correct information that the bus does go back and forth
Yes.
somewhat?
Yes,
And
it
could
does.
we make that available, more widely available?
Could we? I don't know. I don't see why not.
Who would take it?
Yeah. I mean,
I would take it.
I don't want to say it's definite. I have to
But
see how
you're
it
going to be
works.
stuck in Plymouth
But you
all
can't
day.
get back, Lord.
No, what I was gonna say is like, if I needed to go into town, we only have one car in the winter.
Ah.
So if I needed to go in town earlier for an appointment and Jim was gonna come in later, I could take the bus,
There you go.
do whatever I needed to do.
You have to
and
have
then
bus
he could come
stops in Plymouth.
No, you'd have to go.
Where does the bus go to?
Would that
Andy, what time do you go to Plymouth in the morning?
I don't want to put Andy on the
It's
spot. It's
probably
something
a
we could
liability
consider.
thing.
That's my first concern. Taking public passengers
Yeah.
out there. I think that's
But the public's paying, the town's paying for part of it though.
yeah.
Yeah, but even
Andy,
so,
what time do you go to Plymouth in the morning? Just,
I don't.
but what time does the bus go?
The bus stays in Plymouth
Stays in
overnight.
Plymouth. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm trying.
Oh, it doesn't come
Yeah.
back, so it's not practical.
It doesn't come back.
Not always.
Okay.
lives in Plymouth?
The bus lives in
Well, it makes
Plymouth
sense from
I-
overnight.
One of them. One of the 5. Or one of the 7, I should say. But yeah.
Where does it stay?
Probably one of the drivers.
No, it's, no,
It makes
it's,
sense for gas, we don't have to
we
come back to go back and
Yeah.
be stupid.
have arranged to park it at Dead River.
Okay.
The reason we do that is because it doesn't make sense to run to Plymouth, drop people off, run back here, pick up your car, and run back to Plymouth to go home.
Right.
So we just leave it there. The driver picks it up in Plymouth, and brings it in the next
So
morning.
I don't know.
So
if
it's
it
a
would-
one-way, each other day, one way it goes to Plymouth,
In the
next
morning.
day it comes back?
Yes.
That's
Next morning
No, it goes
comes
back at night. It takes the kids
Yeah, it
back
goes
at
back.
night.
Takes
Two
back at
Waterville in
night
the
again.
morning, back to Plymouth at night. Two
Yeah.
Waterville in the morning.
Oh,
back
I
to
see, the
Plymouth
bus,
at night.
the bus starts in Plymouth.
Exactly.
Yes.
Stop, you hear that, Marilyn?
Gotcha.
But aren't there other buses that take the staff at other times during the ski season?
No, we did start the Plymouth, the college bus, which we are going to run, which runs out there 1 time per day. Is that right?
We're
For
only
the
running
bus
that on the weekends.
On the
though.
weekends, though, yeah. On the weekdays, midday, other than coming in the morning and leaving at night, it'd be kind of out of luck. So.
Okay,
you
I'm
know.
gonna, I remember this question coming up in the context one time of getting the kids to
High
the high
school
school.
kids.
That's not possible. It's
Yeah,
that,
we looked at that and we were happy to do it, but
but the
the school
state of
board
New
was not
Hampshire
happy
does
with it.
not allow you to do that. You cannot transport kids on a non-licensed bus.
I
Well,
kind of disagree with that because
Well-
you folks pay for part of that, for part of the
Well, I know,
transportation.
but state rules basically says they gotta go on a state,
Yeah.
it's gotta be on their school bus or something.
So we were happy. We're with you. We were happy to look at it. We kind of disagree, but the rule for us it's not worth fighting the fight unless you guys want us to go down that path.
No,
You know, we're happy to help.
Yeah, that's the problem, they have to have seatbelts.
Plus, they probably
No, they
have
don't.
verified
it is a, you
We
gotta
do.
have a license, the
Okay.
driver's gotta be licensed by
All
the
kinds,
state.
there's all kinds of stuff.
There's all kinds of requirements, it's just not gonna work.
Markings, it's.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
thought the weird thing was it didn't
Chris,
have
I'll
seat
send you
belts.
my spreadsheet. Is there
Great.
anything else on this bus? Otherwise, we're gonna move on. Okay,
All right.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you,
We'll
Chris.
submit an application the next day or so. Great.
we're gonna talk about the solid waste.
Yes, Mr. Musselman is here. Engineers, he is the gentleman who
Oh,
helped us
okay.
with the proposals and
The only one
Prepared
in the
the
room
memo.
with the tie.
the only one in the.
I apologize. I wanted to explain to you before we start going that one of my hobbies is that I'm a selectman.
Oh, okay,
And where is
That's been a
that?
hobby of mine for 8 years in Rye.
all right.
Another what we used to call donor community.
That's right.
They are no more, which is a good thing. And I've been smiling halfway through this meeting because I do the same things you do with a variety of issues. At your request, the town asked us to go through a procurement
Right.
process to see if the town could save money with a private contract for solid waste collection. We put together an RFP, which you've likely seen,
Right.
that went out in September. It's a unique situation that you're in. We had potentially, we thought, a local hauler, a large regional hauler, and a large national hauler that might be interested in this. You are somewhat remote from their centers of hauling operations, and your service requirements are different than what they normally do, servicing individual businesses and curbside routes and whatnot. What we did was to put together a request that outlined the level of service that Waterville Valley currently receives, which is having a crew here 5 days a week in the valley, and an additional 10 Saturdays, and additional selected holidays during the peak seasons. And that level of service is set primarily to assure that none of these containers are full. We have 55 containers and some 18 recycling containers or something like that. And that's the level of service that has been required over the years of the town operation to assure no full containers. We solicited proposals, advertised it in Union Leader, had contact with Waste Management Inc., which is the large national firm, and we never heard back from them after they received the RFP. We had 2 proposers at the pre-proposal meeting that we had in the 3rd week of September, CM Witcher, which is somewhat local, and Casella, which operates your landfill to which you take all of your materials, and is a regional waste firm. They both attended. We issued an addendum based on some of the comments and questions that they indicated, and we received 1 proposal. We got a message from Casella saying that they could not conceive of a service proposal that would match the current service level at a competitive price.
Right.
So we received 1 proposal. Your current cost is about $159,000 a year. The base bid of and that's without depreciation, which adds another $30-some thousand to that. So you're looking at $190,000 in round numbers in current cost. The base bid in the Witcher proposal was $252,980, so it was some $60-some thousand in excess of that. That was not a surprise. Based on their reaction at the pre-proposal meeting, they were saying that the level of service was going to be very difficult for them to provide economically due to their location and lack of the ability to use the equipment elsewhere. They proposed that if they could lease your packer, they would use that for recyclables only, not for refuse, municipal solid waste, and that would save $15,000 a year, which is substantially less than your depreciation cost. So that was a short-term thing that might be of some benefit, but still with a net cost that's significantly higher than your current budget. They did give an alternate proposal that would be a different level of service, and what they proposed was that they would schedule a crew, probably a 1-man crew, although they didn't say, in Waterville Valley for solid waste Monday and Friday, and for recyclables Wednesday. And they would schedule throughout the course of the year 10 additional Saturdays, probably some in July and August and others in January through March.
Right.
And some days after holidays or before holidays. We took a look at the current schedule, and we have data on weekly pulls, dumps of container sites, and we have records of how many runs were made up to from here to Bethlehem for both recyclables and solid waste. Their level of their proposal for that truncated level of service was $109,000 a year, or $93,000 if you allowed them to lease the existing packer that they would use for recyclables. But there are a number of problems with that level of service. One is that for your MSW containers, there are a number of sites that currently exceed that frequency on a regular basis, and there are a lot of other sites that about match that level. So It appears clear from prior records that there would be on that service frequency some dumpsters that would be full, and people would either continue to overfill them or they'd have to go to another container location in order to drop off trash. We also noted that the frequency of pulling recyclables containers was greater than their once weekly proposal currently for some locations again, and in certain seasons. And in January, your recycling containers need to be serviced once every 4 or 5 days rather than once every 7 days. So while there was some savings that their alternate proposal yielded, it was clear that in the best of circumstances, it would not be adequate to keep both trash and recyclables from overflowing. And that's when the weather is good and you don't have blockages of containers. What they indicated, and I understand operationally that you regularly have a situation where there are times when cars are blocking the containers, and there's communication between the town staff and the property managers to get the access cleared, and they call back when it's cleared, and the crew can circle back that day or the next day whenever that is again available. And during significant weather events, snowstorms and ice, we would have a situation where your normal service would be Monday and Friday. They're not scheduled to be here on Tuesday. And they indicated that property managers could call them directly on the truck. And if the access was cleared by the end of the day, they could swing back. And otherwise, it would be the responsibility of the property manager to arrange in some fashion for another servicing on days when they're not here. We have not met with the proposer, CM Witcher, to go over the details of that and to discuss that in more detail. We wanted to meet with you and lay out what we received. I noted in the memo that I think was in your packet that I don't think if we went out again we'd likely get more than one proposal. I think we have what we available for service here. We could have discussions with CM Witcher if we did. One of the issues that we would need to pose is their reliability with respect to backup equipment and backup operators in the event that they have equipment outage or they have an operator who's sick or on vacation and whatnot. And if they're not available on a Monday, do they have backup equipment and personnel to be able to provide the service immediately, because life goes on here in January, February, and March, and the trash keeps accumulating. And that's an issue that we have not addressed with them.
And they're a small company, so that's
Right.
that's a
Last winter, they came in
To
a
assist us.
short period of time to assist the town when you had some equipment outage,
So
and
when
the
truck
owner of
was
the
down?
company came in
Was
the
that when
packer.
the truck was down?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the owner of the company
the owner of the
himself
company.
who drove one of his
Yeah.
trucks.
Right.
So I mean
Right.
that's I
I
don't
see.
know what their staffing
No,
is.
I see what we're getting at with this. It's yeah.
It didn't
doesn't
fly.
work.
It doesn't work.
No, but that's not, we didn't expect it would.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, what we
right.
were kind of hoping was someone would come in and tell us what we can do better.
Right.
How we can economize on this process, how we can make the process more efficient, and what steps we need to take from today going forward as our needs expand to make this work for us
Okay.
in a way that's workable as opposed to playing catch up and
We did ask them for alternate proposals, and what we got was this. We could truncate the schedule. I thought, frankly, that they might come back with a proposal. Give us a 5-year contract. We'll change all your containers and make
Right.
them much larger.
see that's
Right.
what, that's what I
We'll
was-
do it with something that can be a front loader that one guy can get in and out. We didn't get that. We only would have gotten that from a very large hauler who had capital to invest.
And we're too small to make that capital
Correct.
expenditure worthwhile for anybody.
That was not going to happen.
Right.
Well, but that's a lesson for us though, in that our capital costs would be the same if we went back and redid all of our dumpsters.
Oh, no,
It would be no different for us than it would be
Well,
for them.
that's my question. Is there an opportunity for us, if we were to spend some significant capital, to do it more efficiently in a way that would pay back, or are we just too small?
Okay.
Particularly the recycling stuff. It always annoys me. We're mixing corrugated in and filling those bins up and sending nothing but air. Because we can't compress it, we
Nature of
can't
the beast,
compact it.
you can compact it.
Right.
And there are a lot of municipalities that do compact the single stream materials. You ask a very good question. We have not looked at the details of that yet.
Okay.
There are three possibilities. One is that you could look at different equipment that you're using. For
Right.
instance, when your packer is tired, it may very well be that it would be less costly for you to buy a larger piece of equipment, which would limit your number of trips to Bethlehem. Now, you are small, and you're not making that many trips.
Right.
So the potential benefit of that to compare with the cost savings is limited compared to what it would be if you were making a run a day.
Right.
It's much less than that. That's one option. A second option, which has a significant capital cost, more significant than replacing your vehicle with something a little bit larger, would be to have storage here in town where you could compact single stream materials and perhaps drop MSW into a larger trailer such that you would make fewer runs. You'd have some storage capacity here. That's in essence a transfer station. You're very small for that. The town has looked at some conceptual ideas of that in the past, but we haven't looked at the economics since we've taken this.
It's part of it is I've seen transfer stations, big ones.
Yeah.
The question is, has anybody ever figured out a way to make a small transfer, not a transfer station, but some kind of a small compacting facility?
We've done small ones.
Okay.
And we've done probably 20 of these in New Hampshire over the last 25 years. We've done them for communities. We did one in Northumberland, which is a little larger than you, but not a heck of a lot.
Right.
And you can use compactors. These days you would use, you could get by with one compactor, and then if you had something to jockey the containers on site,
Right.
Use them for both single stream and MSW, I suppose. And they're limited at your size to probably a 40-yard compactor container, maybe 50. And most of the larger communities are moving over the road 75-yard compaction trailers or 110-yard open top trailers to minimize hauling costs. Something like that is something that you could look at. That's the second option, and the third option would be in the long run replacing containers with larger containers. A lot of your sites are footprint constrained. You really couldn't double them in size and have more containers. So there may be some constraints in that regard to having larger containers, and it would only apply to 30 or 40% of your container sites where you might need more storage, because many of them don't need to get processed that often because they have lesser waste quantities moving through them. So some combination of those three you might be able to look at. Whether any of them will save you operating cost is a question because of your size.
I'm not even necessarily so concerned about saving operating costs as I am that central facility that we're trying to run looks like hell half the time. I mean, because the people can't get in the bins, particularly in the winter. The doors don't slide very easily. where many of them, particularly the recycling ones, are at best a third full. You can't open the front lids, or the average person can't. And we keep looking at that and saying, geez, this gotta be
Is there a better way?
a
I haven't
better
seen that.
way.
I haven't
mean,
seen that.
You know, I don't know, maybe that's just me, but
I have heard that a lot of these containers, you'll get complaints that they're full, and you find that they haven't walked
They're
around
half
to the
full.
other side. They're half
Right.
full.
right, they're
So
half
they haven't-
full, because if you use the
Right.
sliding door on the side, you know, that it just fills up half the container on that side. The other, you know, you can't, and the people, nobody can open those front
Right.
ones, you know, to get it in the alternate way. And then you got the problem with bears here and everything, you know. So you
And that's a unique
so it's-
circumstance. Now, with respect to the containers, one of the other things is that you have, your containers are all for a truck that is a rear loader.
Right.
It would be more efficient, in all likelihood, if you changed the packer, you
Right.
might want to look at changing out the containers.
Right.
Some of them becoming larger, and all of them perhaps becoming something that would work
Because
with
the
a front
front loader,
loader.
you only need to send one body.
person.
Yeah, right.
They still have to get out of the truck and open the
Right,
bear gates,
right.
whatever you have there to keep the bears out, but, which is a unique thing here somewhat. But in most urban areas, you have fences so that they're screened and whatnot, and that's what you have to do. But you would want to configure that in the long run such that you could do that with one crew member rather than two.
Mark, how long is this truck gonna last?
We don't have much more than a couple of years.
Right, but we have all the dumpsters we've just bought
And we
refurbished.
have a whole bunch of dumpsters that
Well,
we're continuing to work on
Right,
today.
but
Well,
Yeah.
if we have
But
to,
so,
we can
Bill,
sell them or something.
I
but-
think to the point that you made,
Yeah,
hopefully one of the goals of this new building is
right.
to keep our public works staff there able to assist people
Right.
and monitor it a lot closer, because the dumpsters are going to be directly across from their door and they're going to be there. So hopefully that the appearance and everything will be picked up.
And there will be
And-
times of the day when they will be, but most of the day, those guys are not there.
I understand, but because they'll be there more than they were. They'll be there more than they were. They'll be able to instruct people on what is not suitable to be dumped where and things.
There will be
As
a time when
not
they
saying
will
they're
be
going to be
able
there
to-
policing it,
Right.
but we've also talked about, as we move into the future, if we're going to try to move this, we're going to make this more accessible to the weekend people here.
Mhm.
So maybe we're going to need to change the schedules of our public works people to have someone there on a Saturday or a Sunday morning, to be able to work with our residents to get them into the habits that would make this place work a little bit better.
But I mean, even just to me, we're down to simple things sustained. You know, I mean, there was a proposal. Could we build? You know, could we put the dumpsters next up to a ramp so that people could walk up a little bit and at least get in the tops of the darn things?
Mhm.
You know,
Sure.
and
We can-
you know,
we
isn't
can
there?
work
But
I
no
mean,
one can lift those
simple
tops.
stuff like that. Well, no, that's the problem. You got to figure out a way to lift those tops.
Yeah.
And it's not like, you know,
Right.
the average resident's not going to do that. I mean, they need to find a way to get them open, and
Yeah, and-
if that means we got to open for them in the beginning of the day and close them at the end of the day, and at least we ought to be
Yeah.
able to do that.
At some
to be
point,
able
it
to
sounds
get
like
there.
you ought to take a look at the whole system.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
That's what we were hoping this,
you
this
know, I
process, this bid would do for us. That someone come in and say,
They-
we
they
will
didn't
do
it.
this.
Here's a better
Town
way to
needs
do
to do
it.
it itself.
Right.
That's the upshot of
Look
this.
at the entire system in 2009 and 10. We did that. We have this.
I
No,
contend,
we
Mark,
didn't
didn't do that. We basically said, let's pave this area out there. We'll put a bunch of dumpsters and we'll learn as we go
that
along.
that was there was a study before we did this, Bill.
Oh, okay.
And we've looked at transfer stations and we've looked at compactors.
Right, and,
Oh, yeah,
and
no,
we
we've done that.
certainly don't, a transfer station is not gonna work. But the question is, can we find a reasonably priced compactor? Is
Yeah,
there
but no, when I
alternative
say transfer
technologies out
station,
there?
I mean just a compactor,
We- yes,
something
we
that
did look
people
into
can
that.
just throw them
Right.
into.
Yeah.
I mean, like, look at the town of Thornton. You walk right up to the edge of it and you throw the,
Right.
nobody opens a bag, a
Right.
container or anything. And there are spaces out there that we can do that. But there is a big capital investment in doing
Right,
that.
we looked
When
into
we looked at
compactors.
that, it was pretty
Well,
expensive. to be
yeah,
able to do that.
Well, right. If the only solution is the $250,000 solutions, then you know. But I know where we're pushing, which is we're going to need another guy to work on the trucks.
No,
Well, I mark my words, a year from now, that's what we'll hear. If you keep up, we're gonna have to put another guy in the trucks. And so we ought to be looking as best we can, is there ways to make this thing more efficient? I've said enough.
That's the next step, if you wanna look at that.
Right.
We now know the town
Right.
needs to look at that itself and.
Yeah, right.
and see
Yeah,
what we-
I
see what we
agree with
can
your
do. So,
conclusions that we're gonna be in the trash business for the
Yeah.
foreseeable future. Yes,
Would it
Dorothy?
save money if you didn't have the dumpsters at the condos, then everybody had to bring their garbage here?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It would save you a ton of money.
Save you a ton of money. Now, and you could look at garbage versus recycling. You know, and we've already made a decision not to put recycling dumps out at the condos for exactly that reason. It's not going to work. We tried it. We tried it in Windsor Hill. It was a mess.
The trouble with that is that you have now decades of tradition of people
Yeah.
having the dumpsters
Oh yeah.
there locally,
People have to
and
change.
they rely on it. And
It's a difficult change. Less like saying that you could only bring your garbage. You know, that we're going to be shut down on Sunday and you can't dump garbage on Sunday would be
A lot of towns do that.
a lot of towns do that. It's not. We're a resort community. A lot of people here dump their garbage on Sundays. It's not a very
But it
practical
wouldn't be a big
solution.
deal to drive out of town and dump it and then.
Well, we have a little bit of the reverse problem now, which is people drive into town and dump their garbage. But because
But
we don't charge, we don't have stickers, we don't, and it isn't worth. Frankly, we've looked at. I mean, it isn't worth putting the people out there to supervise.
That's right.
But
if you did that, you would then need a transfer station
Right.
here.
Yeah.
That would be fully capable of transferring all of the materials for both trash and recyclables.
Then we'd have
And
to
that's not a
have
minor cost.
compactor. Right, then we'd have to have
Right,
compactors
right,
or whatever.
right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do the associations pay a fee to have their dumpsters there?
depends.
Good answer.
Everybody pays a fee.
On
Everybody
that
pays a
number.
fee. Everybody pays
Everybody
per.
pays a trash fee.
Everybody
It's in
pays
your
per
water and sewer
pickup.
bill.
I pay. We
You
all
do pay. Everyone
Does
pays.
the association pay?
Yes.
Because that, it is no different. I pay a fee and I bring it here.
I
The
don't know, Mark,
association
in a
members
condominium
have-
for trash, do they pay a certain, they pay?
Don't you remember we switched over
We
from
switched
going,
over.
the associations used to pay a dumpster fee.
Fee.
And what we went to was everyone in town, individual on your water and sewer
Right.
bill
Gets
pays,
charged.
there's a garbage
Now,
charge for
right.
it.
Some of us-
It's a separate, it's a different tier of payments for a single family home
Right.
and for a condominium.
And it's different for Golden Eagle. I don't think we charge per house anymore, right? I think we still charge per
Well,
pickup.
no, we charge.
We charge
Or
every
Town
property.
Square. Town Square is.
Town Square
is
and the other commercial properties
get charged per
get
pickup.
charged per pull whenever they get tipped.
Sure.
The residential, every residential property owner in town gets a set trash fee, whether they put it in their dumpster at the condos or whether they put them here.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
So
Everybody
there's no
gets a
fee for the convenience of having it at your
fee.
association.
No, there's no additional fee. It's a flat
Right.
fee for
Okay,
everybody.
that's an interesting question.
But if I recall, the cost to each individual unit owner now is significantly higher
It probably is.
than it was, and the amount
When we
that
charge
we're
per
paying our
pickup.
homeowners
For the
association
condo, for a
for
condo
the
owner?
trash pickup.
Yeah.
For a condo owner.
Yeah, yeah, probably is.
Yeah.
There were
So
some
it's nothing
condos that were
before.
paying
Right.
significantly
It
low.
like everything, it
varied.
depends. Do you have
Right.
full-time
Yeah.
residents, part-time
That's right.
residents?
It's
How
like your
much
water
do-
bill.
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, you get different charges?
No,
Your
you
full-
No, whether you use water or not, you're
Right,
paying the
right.
same.
Different charges,
Yeah.
and so we leveled the playing field with everybody. getting
Okay.
Somewhat up.
I appreciate the work. One of the things we've got to decide is that we
Yeah.
want to continue to
Right.
Wanna look
do
at other
some
things.
work at looking at some alternatives just to make what we have now work a little more efficiently, particularly if we got to replace a packer truck. And we'll have to discuss
We'd
that.
be glad to help look at that or
Sure.
not, as you
Right.
see fit.
But I appreciate your efforts, and I'm not surprised by the result. I mean, our fundamental problem is we're not a steady producer of garbage. We're an erratic producer of garbage, and we're tiny.
And you're all,
You know?
but you're all over the place.
But when
In
we
the
make
valley,
garbage,
there's
we
lot
can
of
make a lot
locations.
of it, right?
Correct.
We certainly
In certain weeks, you do.
Certain
a
weeks,
whole
we
lot.
do a great job at reducing garbage.
Okay, so we'll be in touch
Okay.
Yeah.
with him
Right.
for the future.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Grace.
thank you very much.
Appreciate it. I walked in here and I saw Chris over there, and I did a double take because he goes to meetings in the seacoast where I run into him.
Oh, yes.
Each of us having another hat on, so it's a
All right.
small state.
No, that's-
I
Thank you.
confess, I mean, the next item on the agenda is the Wyman property. I did not a chance, I didn't go over there, I
I looked.
forgot. Did you look? How is
Yeah.
it?
It looks much better from the road. I don't
Okay.
think they're finished because they still have ladders up on the roof, like they're still working on some things, and,
Okay.
you know, I noticed
might
one side wasn't painted, whereas I think the front was painted, and I think all the window,
You mean they just painted the sides that are visible from the road?
No,
No, they
that place that
replaced
didn't get painted is new siding.
new
that they
siding,
put up.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
that's what I thought,
Is
yeah.
Ted working on that?
No.
Who's doing it?
Guy out of
Ash.
Romney.
Chris,
of
what do you
Rutland.
think? I mean, has he
Yeah.
kind of met the spirit of what he said he was gonna do?
It's certainly progress which we haven't seen in about 12 years.
Right.
There's still, I think there's still more work to be done as far as the landscaping.
The
They
landscape.
didn't touch any of the trees.
No.
Or clean up
It's a
anything
mess.
around the.
But it is, I mean, I'm really happy on how things have started and how it looks, the building itself looks. But they're not done.
Okay.
Does this require a certificate of compliance or anything from the town? Once
We
the work
should-
is done?
Well, we should send them what I was asking
Yeah,
in the memo
so-
was, we should send them some letter that said.
Thank you for your
"You've
start,
done-"
you still
yeah,
need to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. that's
And
what
can we
I
authorize
did.
Chris to just do
Yeah.
that on his own, whatever he feels?
I'm fine with that. Just-
What do we need? You needed to send a
Well,
letter out?
we need to send a letter on October 31st and tell them they either complied, they're complying, or they haven't.
I would say, you
That's
know,
what you want.
I think what we've just heard, we're pleased with the progress you made
Okay.
to date. We encourage you to finish the things you committed to do,
What are you
right?
referring to?
I think we can
The
extend.
Wyman property, that's
The red
it looked
house.
like the old abandoned red house.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think because of the progress, we might be able to
Extend
extend the deadline.
sure.
It looks like they may have run out of time for painting.
Yeah.
Through spring.
So I would personally send an encouraging letter that we're, from what we see, and we look forward to you completing all the things you said you were gonna do.
Okay. Very good.
All right? Let's back up. I'm gonna do department head updates so the department heads can get out of here.
Good evening. Good afternoon.
Good evening. So start with the well. When do we expect the well to be back?
I believe sometime, hopefully sometime towards the end of next week.
Okay.
But I will know a little bit more tomorrow.
We're down to one well right now, functioning well, right? Is that correct statement?
And that's the tip with the $10,000 pump we needed?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Is there anything we need to do given this situation right now? I mean, you know,
No,
we got more than enough water. Or
We've
we
got
have a water problem, or-
we've got enough water. Our usage is down right at the moment because we're in a slow period.
slow period, right?
We have made adjustments at the reservoir so that the reservoir is actually holding a little bit more. And the drawdown, we've made adjustments not only on the top end of the reservoir capacity, but also on the drawdown. So we've tightened that up a little bit so that we can only draw down about 6 inches.
And then the pump.
And then the pump comes on and replaces. So
Okay.
we're keeping the maximum amount of water in the reservoir
Okay.
without running the pump continuously.
Right. Okay. Good.
Yep.
All right.
So
you've made a decision to replace the pump?
Yes.
Okay.
We've
Yep.
moved forward with the new pump, which
How old? I'm just
30
curious.
years.
How old?
over
It's
30 years.
yeah.
30 years old. Well, things fail
Yeah.
after a while, I guess.
So
All right.
we were fortunate it failed it
When it did.
when it did.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for interrupting you. Go right ahead. What else? You got anything else?
No,
How about help me understanding this thing with the conduits running down the brook?
They
Oh, there was some, during the last storm event,
Yeah,
there was some flooding on Snowsbrook. I don't particularly know the exact location of the culverts that were supposedly stockpiled by the mountain.
oh, so that's
for-
what it
for
was.
some-
Somebody actually
for some repair work.
stockpiled some culverts for
Apparently,
repair.
they did not get them out of the flood zone, so they were stockpiled.
So
on
they
the
got
side.
picked up and sent downstream?
There were a couple.
To the
They
dam.
were probably over by actually over by the old Seventh Fairway and the old tee box, and they came down off
Could've-
the hill into the pond.
Don't know where they
And
came
there
from.
may have actually been some human assistance.
Could have
there
been.
were some kids who may have helped them along.
They
Got a
flowed.
little pumpkin festival
Yes,
going on.
exactly.
But we
had
didn't
the
have a
Clover
ride.
festival. So 3 of them ended up in the pond, and
Kids or culverts?
Yeah.
As far as we
who
know,
knows how
just
many kids.
culverts.
So,
culverts.
no problems, or there's no
No.
problems?
No, I am keeping, not only do we have a significant rain forecasted, I am keeping the pond down so that we can straighten the
Right.
flashboards for
Sure,
this winter.
why not?
So,
Yeah, I don't think we're expecting a lot of guests this weekend, right?
and the boats are done, and
Boats are all out of there and everything else. Okay, good.
And what happened with Josh? He's still leaving?
He left.
he left.
He left?
That's too bad.
That's too bad.
But on the
I
flip
have,
side,
I have a outbrief that he did with me, and I have some results I'll share with you.
Okay, we'll go into non-public when we talk about that. All right, gotcha.
The only other thing that is new to report, I did have the opportunity to meet with North Country, two representatives from North Country Council yesterday
Mhm.
morning regarding a road maintenance program and a culvert program. They had reached out last spring, I think I told you, and things haven't gotten very far until just now. They're working with DOT and DES and the University of New Hampshire to upgrade this particular software package that we can utilize.
Okay.
And as soon as that's done, which they are saying will be this spring, we'll be able to take advantage of it. And they will provide me with some estimated costs of what that might be, so that if we're interested in purchasing and utilizing that program,
It's a
we can
road
do that.
surface management
Yeah.
system to
Good.
help us prioritize.
Thank you.
And how much is it?
I don't know.
We don't know. They haven't told
Okay.
us.
Chris, have you
No.
got anything?
Nothing major to report. Like we said earlier, we put the deposit down on the ambulance finally. So now we own a chassis. I just gotta build it. We've had some pretty busy hockey weekends
Right.
in town, but as from a public safety standpoint, we haven't. It's been quiet.
No
Quiet,
issues.
quiet. No
Good.
issues at all. I
Good.
think there might have been 2 pumpkins that were smashed in town square. That was the highlight of last weekend.
That's right, it's another big hockey weekend this weekend.
This weekend, yeah.
So, and, you know, that
Well,
was
that's
the
good,
highlight.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's been pretty quiet this time of year. That's really about it.
Great.
I'm gonna change the order here because I know we've got some hangers on and we've got some privilege of the floor. Is there anything anyone would like to bring up? Marilyn?
Well, everybody was here to ask questions, and then now they've all left. About, I guess probably, I've
Oh, they all left. Oh,
Yeah.
you mean they were here on another issue?
They were all here
Well,
for
we
privilege.
asked them if they had privilege of the floor. We started,
Yeah,
and nobody
they
said
didn't say
anything. I mean, so
yeah, well, they really were concerned. Supporters came for the Race Center
right.
in hopes that the good news.
Yeah, and we have. I know you weren't here. We've
No, I got the word.
essentially agreed that we will put a warrant article and people in town will vote.
Yeah. So maybe Mark can help us now. questions about the rec department.
Mhm.
Let me move this chair. I always find these chairs
Right in.
too big. They're sort of blocking our view. So we were playing pickleball one day recently, and we're told that we had to leave because there was a private function starting, which got us looking at the whole booking process and the rates online, and wondering, it didn't seem fair to us that they should usurp regularly scheduled events and times. And especially for the amount of money that they take in, you can rent the gym for $60 an hour to a maximum of $150 a day. It's about half that, I think, for the multi-purpose room. But I don't understand why. So the first question is, what's the logic? Why has that been decided?
Well, they didn't usurp any time. Pickleball was scheduled on that day for the time that it was open. The rental was at a time that was not scheduled for pickleball. It was scheduled for open gym time. We didn't change pickleball at all that day. We just simply had a rental after, so that the pickleball time ended and then the rental began. My understanding of that particular incident was that the people who were playing pickleball wanted to play pickleball more.
During
and
open gym.
During open gym. So it was not that we stopped the scheduled pickleball time. If you go on the website right now and you look, we have every day scheduled out for pickleball time, open gym time, etc. And we only do rentals during the open gym period.
Well,
So it
I
didn't
think that's correct.
change.
Yeah.
It didn't change the pickleball time. It's that they wanted to extend the pickleball time.
Well,
So-
I think the view was that people. So we've sort of been splitting up the time now. It gives some of the people more opportunity to go down during open gym. We've sort of been using the facilities during open gym.
Which is okay as long as we don't have transient users, transient guests of the lodges and things like that coming in for open gym time. That's why we have split the days the way that we have, so that we have a mix of uses in there. We have taught open gym, we have pickleball, we have open gym, we have after school programs, and so we've divvied up the days. And then, yes, if nobody is in there for open gym time and somebody wants to extend playing pickleball or whatever, they're welcome to do that.
But how do we know when it says open gym and we get 8 people together who work out their schedule to all be there, and we go down there and they say, oh, sorry, we booked it for a private function?
I don't know if she puts the private function times on there, but I'm sure that scheduling wise,
Our online calendar represents scheduling, and we've been doing this for at least 7 years now.
putting on the private.
Yep. If
They'll
we,
put
if
it
we have
on.
an open gym that's canceled,
Right.
open gym will be listed as open gym canceled, and then there'll be a separate entry that says private facility rental programs closed.
And we put it on as soon as we have the rental. So all they have to do is go online and go to the town website, to the rec department page, and check the schedule. It's put on there.
Now those things do change more frequently than
Yeah.
a monthly calendar or a
Right.
seasonal calendar that gets
Right.
put out. So something that goes out in September as a fall program calendar that says open gym Saturday 1 to 3 might not be representative of this
Right.
Saturday if there's been a private
But as soon
facility
as you
rental
know
booked.
about the private
It goes
facility
online.
rental, it goes online.
Yep.
So
That's sort of a separate issue. Everybody is really confused about which form of paper they should be looking at. One person's calling up and saying, no, it says 3 to 5, and somebody else says, no, I'm looking online and it's not 3 to 5, it's 12:45 to 3, and so
But
it
that's
seems
what-
very complicated.
well, no, it's not very complicated at all. It's what Tom just said. The spring calendar or winter calendar or fall calendar will go out, and that'll have several months. Then we do a monthly calendar on top of that, which might modify depending on if we've had something scheduled in. And then day to day, because these are open gym periods, if we have a rental and we have an opportunity to make money, then we will do the private rental and put them online, which supersedes the monthly or the seasonal calendar. I mean, if
I
there's a
don't think
better
you
way that you think we should do it, I don't know how else to, because we have a long-range plan, we have a monthly plan, and then we have a daily plan. I mean, and we're trying to maximize revenue from the facility. And people, unfortunately, people are not making the plans for the birthday parties and the other things that we get the rentals for. They don't make those plans 3 months ahead of time. Even monthly, they don't make them. They'll call a week or two before the event and rent the facility. I mean, if that's not the way you want us to approach it, we can plan something else.
Well, it sounds to me, Marilyn, listening to this, that what the pickleball people want is more pickleball hours.
No, I don't think so. And that's not what I'm here to talk about. I don't know.
Oh,
So that's a
okay,
different
because I
subject.
got the impression that there are, listening to this, I'd walk away with the impression that there were set hours for pickleball, and that they weren't enough to accommodate everybody, so they're using the open gym hours, because a lot of times nobody shows up for open gym to play pickleball. And so it sounds to me like you're saying there aren't enough hours to play pickleball that are just set aside for that. No.
What my concern is, what is the logic of the private bookings? And when we live here and want to have the
make money. Yeah, I mean,
make money. That's.
But I've looked at the printout of what they make for these events. It doesn't seem worth the income.
Well,
Well, we don't make anything on pickleball.
we don't make anything on pickleball, so.
But you make $12,000 alone on me per year, times all the other people who play.
what do you mean?
You mean your tax bill?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but only
So what do you
only
mean
a
you
fraction of
don't
your
make
tax
anything
bill
on
goes
pickleball?
to.
What am I
Yeah.
getting for the taxes?
Well, and again, we can address. What you're suggesting is that whatever the set agenda items are, that we stick to those usages and we don't rent the gym during those periods. Now, if we did that, what I think would happen, if we got to that, we would go to open gym and we say no pickleball during open gym. It's open gym time. And even if nobody shows up, why should we allow the pickleball players to use it? Now, that's why I'm suggesting, are you really asking for more pickleball time?
No.
Well,
I mean,
because
you may have
my
heard that
understanding,
from somebody else.
we're not canceling pickleball
No, we are
hours for an
not.
open gym,
No.
for a gym party. We're canceling open gym.
Right. That is my
And
understanding.
and the logic for that is many times nobody shows up for open gym.
That's for sure.
Right.
There's very little rec department
Right.
use as far as I can see,
Yeah.
which is another concern. So maybe I haven't made the point clear. I think what everybody's concerned about, and they're now not here to make
Right.
their concerns known, is that when we get a group together and go down to meet, then we find out we can't go in. There's just been too many calendars. I think it's presumptuous for you, Mark. I think it's presumptuous for you to say that it's easy, because I'm telling you that all the people who play say that the schedules are difficult to follow, and people are constantly debating which schedule they should be following. If there
But
were just
isn't
one
that
schedule,
solved with a phone call?
But
If you
why
have a
is
group
it?
of people that are gonna play and there's some question about whether it's available for pickleball, wouldn't you
Right.
just pick up the phone and say?
4695. Why don't you call and ask?
we do.
Well-
We do. Different people call, but you've got so many people looking at different schedules. So if we knew that there was one place that
It
was
is, it's
definitive.
the website is updated
Right.
as soon as there are any changes.
But
I'll jump in
Marilyn,
there.
what you're asking for is we set aside certain times for pickleball and agree that we will never put a function out for that.
And we've done that.
But that's where we are today, and that's the only time you can play pickleball. And that's going to be less time than people are getting now. What they want is, what I'm hearing is there are people who say, well, I don't think probably anybody's going to show up for open gym. Why don't we, and we got 8 people, we like to play, we're going to go down and play.
Is that okay or not okay?
It's okay if we have
It's
nothing
okay,
scheduled.
but then you got to be flexible that it's your secondary use. The only reason we're allowing that to happen is because nobody's showing up for open gym. If people showed up for open gym, we wouldn't let you play then.
Right, if
What would
people
we
are
do
playing
if a whole bunch of people showed up to play basketball? We got to make a choice between the
We've done
pickleball
that.
people.
I've been there when that situation.
Yeah,
Yes,
and-
and we've played half court basketball and
Right.
one
Yeah.
court of
I mean, they
pickleball.
try to
We
accommodate
try
it,
to
but
accommodate everybody.
But
I
if
think
you
that's
had everybody show up, there isn't going to be enough court time.
The only time that we have closed that court is when we have had a paying customer who has rented the facility at a certain time. That's the only time we exclude anyone. We try to work in the little kids in one corner and basketball on half court and a pickleball court going. I mean, Rachel tries to work with anyone who comes in and wants to do something. The only time that doesn't happen is when someone has paid us for 2 hours of use of the facility.
Yes,
And-
that's
and-
exactly what we've experienced.
And we try to communicate that by updating that online schedule as quickly as we can, as soon as we know about that rental. Sometimes we're given 2 weeks or 3 weeks notice, sometimes it's only a few days, but we update the website as soon as possible. And we
Okay.
have multiple people who can do that update, so that it's not incumbent just on Tom to do it, as an example. Okay, so we're trying to communicate when we have that time.
Right.
So, and I hear what you're saying, Bill. Is I don't
Well,
know.
I
how
would
else
suggest
to-
that the people that are playing pickleball ought to get together and decide if they think they need more time to please go and ask. You got to set. We don't have. We got more people playing than we got time to play. We need you to set aside more tournament time to play pickleball. I think it would be just, and then you can always count on those times being available. But if you think you can depend on the open gym time, then I think you're gonna have to look at the calendar because, open gym is just that. Anybody can use it. That's what we say. It's not reserved.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if the pickleball people feel there's not enough time, they ought to.
I don't know.
Well, ask them.
That's not something I talked
Right?
with anybody
Ask them
about.
if they like more time. They ought to go and.
We
maybe
were
they're-
only here to find out what the logic was of renting out this space when you have town residents who want to use it.
Well, the problem, we rent out the space because there's lots of time where we're trying to just make a little extra money because kids want to hold birthday parties, and there's a climbing wall back there that doesn't get used all that much, and we rent it out for those purposes, all right? Now, do we have to rent it? No. But probably do we have to put staff in there to keep the place open is another question. The answer to that is no, we don't. But then nothing's going to be available for anybody.
Well,
I mean, we're trying to get some revenue right now. We're spending $300,000 a year in the rec department. Revenue covers at best half of it. I mean, so if we don't collect the revenue, what are we going to do? Spend more taxpayers' money to have people there to keep it open? We can't. We've gone through. We can't let people just go in the gym with no supervision.
We're a public entity. It's not a private. We can't just
open the
give
doors
keys.
and say,
That's right.
you don't
We're
have
not
to
allowed-
have
we
any.
can't do that.
You just walk in whenever you want and do what you want.
We can't do that.
It's gonna. Well, I mean, we've talked about training volunteers. I mean,
I have a key.
right,
Yes,
and
we-
we'd be willing to do that. But but even so, I mean, we're going to have some rules. It's, you know. But it sounds to me like the pickleball people want more pickleball time. They would ask for it.
I've just told you twice that's not what I was here to ask about.
Well, then I don't know what you're asking. Why are we renting it? To make money. Because if we don't make money, how are we going to pay the $300,000? I mean, I'm loath to spending taxpayers' money to subsidize recreation to begin with.
I think, I mean, I would be willing to work on a tax force to change things. I think we could get the
If you want to write a
down.
proposal to change things, write it and we'll
Yeah,
look at it
do it.
gladly. We'd like to actually, and we've discussed this, have someone come in and lease the whole operation from us. Someone
Yeah,
come in,
we'd like to,
take it,
right,
run the
get-
camps,
yeah,
do
and
everything,
we'll give 'em
and
100
get us out of the business.
We'll give them $100,000 a year,
Just like
and
we
we'll
did with
get
the
out of
hockey.
business.
Yeah,
Academy.
that's exactly what I've heard swirling around. I think that would be a great idea if it's possible.
Well, write it up and send it to us.
But I know that I'm in there quite frequently now, and it seems to me like it's really overstaffed for the amount of use that it's getting.
Well,
we adults don't really need any supervision whatsoever.
I'm not disagreeing. You know, input's well taken, and we continue to take a look at the staffing and trying to get the staffing in line with what's appropriate. But, you know.
I have a meeting in Loudon at 6 o'clock.
Okay, well, we do need to go
let's
on.
keep going.
All right.
I really do need
I
to
hear it.
leave.
And I would suggest that all those people who don't want to speak up in public, nothing will change in this town till they're willing to come and complain. Tell them to come and complain.
They were all here. They just
I know, they
wanted to
walk out. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yes.
We went through, I got an earful from my wife about, they're all coming down to complain. And I start with open, I said,
Anybody have anything
nobody
they
and
said
want to
anything,
bring up?
anything you want to bring up, nothing.
And the other thing,
But you
Marilyn,
know what? If they had the response, the receipt that I got from you, which felt like an attack, I can't blame them for not opening their mouths. For
It's-
Mark to say
well,
that the
I
schedule is
apologize
simple
if-
when I've just told you that there's incredible confusion about what the hours are because there's 3 different forms of schedules.
Right.
And
But-
usually,
But Mark is,
so maybe we should all just go to the internet. Maybe I'll
But
tell
Mark
everybody
is
to
saying
do
that
that.
the schedule for pickleball is fixed and is never violated. And you're
I
saying,
can tell you that's not true, Bill.
oh, okay,
wait
well
a
now
second,
we're at
wait a
another
second.
point. You're saying it is
That
violated.
is something
We've
totally
been sent
different.
out
because-
of there so many times. Oh, I'm
No.
so sorry. It was a mistake. There was a mistake in the schedule. We're like, well, that's okay because we're not sure which schedule
Well,
to follow
I'd
anyway.
like to know the days and times that happened, Marilyn.
We'll follow up
I
with
need
that.
to know
Because-
that
because-
that time that is on that schedule for pickleball is not supposed to be unless the school has changed something or I need to know when that happens. Because, and that's the other part of this problem. The incident that you're talking about, I have a letter in here to the Board of Selectmen from a town employee about getting yelled at by people in town who she's just trying to do what she has been instructed to do, okay? And people are rude to her and yell at her for telling them that there is a paid event coming up and they have to leave, okay? Not during pickleball time, but during open gym time. And nobody has talked to Rachel or myself about it. They simply yelled at her and left, okay? We cannot fix anything unless we know about it. And they sat here today, they were offered open comment time, nothing was said. And now you're saying that people are being kicked out of pickleball time for other stuff.
There were
Well,
errors in the
wait.
schedules.
Yeah, but
There's
but
just
then
too
you
many
need to-
schedules circulating. If there's a 3-month schedule, a
Marilyn,
1-month schedule, and then
I think we're
internet.
just going around and
Okay.
around. And
This is-
what I'll tell you is we'll get Rachel and we'll sit down and we'll try to have a discussion and see what the rules are, and we'll try to get some correspondence out reinforcing here's the rules as we're going to follow them. And I hear what you're saying. You know, why are we renting this facility? Because I don't think the taxpayers want to spend more money.
I'd like to see the rec department cut in half. I think we could do it.
Write it up, send
And
it
I
in, give
think-
us
Yeah,
a proposal, have
right,
someone
but-
write us a
Don't
proposal.
tell me to make work out of nothing. I'd
Well,
be
you're
happy
telling us,
to
you
do-
said, I can see how we can do it in half. I can't see how we can do it in half. If
I-
you'd like it in half, let us know how to do it. That's why we hired this guy here to tell us about our trash problem.
You just said you
We're
wanted to wind it
volunteers.
up. I would be happy to talk about that because it's something we've been talking about a lot. But you just
Okay.
said you wanted to close the meeting down. First of all, I was delighted to hear that there was an extra $25,000 that you will go forward, are willing to go forward with.
No, no,
the
no, no,
lesson.
no,
We're
be
not.
careful.
No,
We have
that's
not
not-
said that. We said town, the citizens of the town will get a chance to vote on whether they
No,
want
I
to spend an
understand
extra
that, but
25.
the selectmen will have pre-approved it, correct?
No.
No, we didn't promise
Well, all we
that
said
either.
is we'll put a warrant article out there. We'll make sure there's a warrant article
Okay,
on the
so
ballot.
To be decided then.
Right, absolutely. The
Okay.
citizens
So-
decide these things.
What I thought, instead of increasing the budget, is that we could take that 25,000 out of the rec department, since I think a lot of what the Ray Center does is overlaps with.
And
with
and I'm sorry because she was here, and I'm gonna go out of my way to say the same thing. That I would encourage the Race Center to take a look at all the activities provided by the rec department, and if we're running programs that they think they could take over, I would be delighted, and I'd be more than willing to give them money to cover the cost of doing it. But what I heard was a little bit of the rest. They tried something on the, and I'm not exactly sure, but they tried doing some science programs with the school, and we don't want to do that anymore.
Well, the school decided.
Oh, okay.
And are they,
Well, I don't know
are
what
they
happened.
working with
The
Squamish
school-
Lake now?
They are working with Squam
I
Lakes
saw
first
Audrey
of all,
walking
but
through
the
the other day.
second reason they gave is that they used to have a teacher who was not well versed in science
Right.
and math, and they had now hired somebody, so they
They
didn't
don't need
need the
anybody.
Ray Center
Yeah.
anymore.
Right.
And then and you know, Chris talked to them and said, hey, there's some other things we can
Sure.
be doing. And here are some suggestions. Why don't you get back to me? And the next they heard, they had gone down to Squam Lake Science Center, and they were going to do some
Well,
programs
school
with
is
them.
the school makes their own
Yeah,
decisions.
that's right.
So
But I mean-
I have written up a lot of ideas based on a lot of discussion with people, but I am willing to give my time free to work on some sort of a task force to sit in some of the meetings and help come up with some new refreshing ideas, because I think that
All
the
right.
time is ripe, because I think everybody loves Rachel, but she's leaving
Well,
And-
as far as my knowledge, Rachel has not resigned, right?
until December-ish timeframe, but certainly
Well,
gonna take
until I
us
get a
that long.
resignation, as far as
Right, right.
the dilemma is, she's
It's-
not resigned.
It's
so
imminent.
Yeah.
I mean, the house,
No,
is,
and-
her house
and
is sold, so it's
if
really
if that
imminent.
happens, we absolutely will sit down and take a look at opportunities to change the way we're doing things. Absolutely.
I think that's just a good opportunity to
Sure.
make changes since she's leaving, and we can shake things up a little bit. I think maybe pare down what we pay for and augment what we can do as volunteers if we have some people who would be willing to shift those
Absolutely.
responsibilities around
Yeah.
and save the town some money. Whereas I think the Ray Center is disproportionately is such an important asset for the town, and we don't treat it well enough for what the service that it does provide to the town.
At town meeting, I would encourage you to stand up and make that speech, because the residents will vote on it.
Right. So we will. There'll be a lot of background
Good.
discussion on it.
All right.
But I
At
would
that,
be
I
willing
am
to
gonna
help.
I'm gonna have to cut this discussion off, only because we've got some other items we need to focus on, and Mark needs to get out of here. Correspondence, Mark, is there anything there that you want to
There's
go over?
nothing really serious, just informational things for
Yeah.
you. The biggest thing was the Campton letter.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing in
increases
the
the
Campton letter. I mean, we're not aware of, like, we're loading a whole bunch of sick people on it.
Oh, no, there's
Okay.
nothing,
All right.
nothing that.
Yeah, I don't.
It increases the pool, so
Sure.
there'd be
Yeah,
more.
right. No,
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Other board concerns, directives? We got anything else you need to talk about?
No. Extension letter to USDA, that's been dealt with.
Yeah, that's the one. Bill
Okay,
signed.
the NRR, who are they?
Just,
Who are they?
they're
What
our
do they do?
resource recovery. They help us with recycling.
Oh, okay.
And some with municipal solid
Right.
waste. We used
Is-
them when our truck broke down.
Okay.
They helped us get in contact with Witcher and so it's an
Now,
organization.
Who's
we
going to that?
belong to.
Is Jim gonna go?
I don't know if Jim will go. I was just putting it out there. We have had selectmen go in the past, so you're welcome to go if you'd like to listen to them, but they don't do much.
Sounds like a fun evening. All right, we're going to have to go into non-public here at 10 after 5.
Okay?